revolution with no man control. Sound off. A revolution with the record of the sound off. Sound off. Sound off.
What's up, everybody? We are live, fresh, 1980s. You know how we do it. It's I actually am rocking my old 80s gear. It was actually a mullet wig that I had, but I had to cut it. These were the shades that I had. It was 1980s. It was actually a youth group party, so this is all the fresh gear that I got. This 1980s super sweet vest, which gets really hot, so I gotta take it off and actually reveal this sweet 1980s painted vintage shirt, which is all going up for eBay. So you guys can go to my eBay store and check that out after this show. You guys are watching Sound Off. What's up, everybody? How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Doing good.
Hey, what's up? Do you take cryptos for that stuff?
Cryptos? Come on, man. I don't even know what cryptos are.
I don't think anybody does.
This is 1980s tonight. We're talking.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
Talk about cash only type of stuff. So
get your Walkman out and let's start blaring the music.
Yeah.
Get your ghetto blaster.
Right. So we're missing a few people.
Boombox.
We got somebody who joined us from last episode, which is the one and only Tom Dunn. Give it up, everybody, for Mr. Tom Dunn.
Dude, you guys made me look so cool because you put my name on the
thumbnail. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah.
And we are missing Josh again, and Elijah. You're on vacation, so when you watch this, we don't feel bad for you because he's soaking it up in the sun all day at the beach in one of the Carolinas. I'm not going to tell you which one.
West.
Yeah, West Carolina, absolutely.
Yes. I love American geography.
And American football. He loves American football.
Amen.
And I heard, that Johnny, through our whole last episode, was watching the NHL games on another monitor. Somebody leaked that, and I was going to leak
such a crazy rumor. I don't know where you would have heard that.
Crazy rumor.
He's Diamond.
He's doing it again tonight.
What's the score,
Hey, man, he's Canadian.
0-0.
Give him
But
a break.
I can confirm nor deny.
It's the Great Battle of Alberta. It's the two cities in our province, so it's a big deal. So
Think of it like a North Carolina, South Carolina battle, or an East Carolina versus West Carolina battle.
Yeah, right. There's got to be some part of
hypothetically, of course.
Right.
Well, tonight is actually Ohio versus Canada, and we're gonna actually.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, you guys are all in Ohio.
Going to win this.
Yeah. So yeah,
We'll see that. We'll see, Tom.
So we're gonna go through some of the artists, but for the listener.
Elijah and Josh aren't from Ohio, though, as well, are they?
Elijah's from Ohio. Yeah, he's.
But Josh is from
California.
That's right. Wow, crazy.
Yeah. So we're.
I feel ganged up on. I don't know about you, Johnny, but there's a lot of Ohioans here. I don't know.
Yeah, 3-2. Here we go. So for you guys in the chat, you guys can help us pick this top 10. So the purpose of tonight, we're having fun. But we want to vigorously debate. We don't want to politely debate. We want to pick who are the best artists of the 80s based on this criteria only. Okay. So you guys got your personal favorites we're going to talk about, but we've got to really showcase these attributes. So it's going to be based on the biblical content of their music, the quality of their music, of course, their impact at that time, and their impact today, meaning their relevancy for today. Does their music withstand the test of time? Is it classic, or did it just sort of fade away and only for that time period? So we're going to judge these artists, this music, this crazy era before we had gadgets, before we had, everything that we had in the 90s. We had much cooler time, which was the 80s, which was, I think, for all of us, at least part of our childhood or all of our childhood.
Yeah, we'd be listening to these songs on the boombox. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, my list is totally messed up. I thought we were going for stage presence and coolest album covers. So.
Hey, but you know what? Some of the stuff that you chose is what a lot of other people chose. So I think it's all going to be based on that. So we're going to talk about, each one. So no. Everybody's picks were excellent and great. So and so you guys in the chat room, you guys are going to get to help us pick. But since Josh isn't here, we're going to go with let's chat about this. Let's take it away. This is Josh's picks. There was not in any order,
Right.
So we'll just start from his top of the list. Did you guys rock out to the Altar Boys back in the day?
Yes, definitely.
Well, tell us, people who didn't listen to them in the 80s. Tell us what they were about.
Tom, do you want to go for that?
Well, Altar Boys, definitely familiar with them. I didn't own every album. I kind of caught on to them at was it Against the Grain or I don't want to get them mixed up with the Dime Store Prophets, but it was a little bit punk. They were called Gut Level Music. I later went back and listened to their older stuff before I kind of caught on to them. But they were definitely influential, and went on to be involved in other projects. So not surprised. When I'm looking at Josh's list right here, I'm just like, oh man, these are some that that I just kind of missed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I picked my list for the ones that the bands that I listened to the most. But these were all definitely bands that I listened to. And anyway, I don't want to jump down the list, but yeah, Altar Boys, a great band, definitely influential.
I'd say Mike Stand is one of the best. Mike Stand, see, Altar Boys was kind of like so we'll go for the figurative, kind of more social distortion kind of group. If you listen to that kind of rock and roll, so it was kind of punk, kind of rock, so a mixture of U2 and that's a good song.
Make sure we keep talking.
This stuff Doug right in his tracks. He's like, ooh,
stop me, man.
That's a good one.
But no,
they
were one of my favorite. Show No Mercy was my favorite record of theirs.
So would you guys say that they were, if we judged them based on that criteria of like, biblical content, where were they at, based on some of those lyrics?
Oh, very much so.
I don't, yeah. Definitely, when you had the punkier a band was or the heavier a band was, it seemed the bolder they were in their lyrics. And these guys had some bold lyrics.
Nice. All right, well let's jump down this list. We got no stranger to sound off, Daniel Amos.
Oh yeah.
That's that Daniel Amos appeared multiple times on this list. So we'll talk about them. Maybe we can talk about them later in the show because we will do that. But yeah, they're super instrumental, and I think their music still holds up today. Not to give it away, but it might be on my list, so we can chat about that. The 77s. This was the only time the 77s appeared on all of our list. So
I give it. I won't get into it, but the 77s, great band, but not a lot of biblical content to say. Still relevant, but an amazing band.
I remember a lot of listening to rock bands now. They said when they would listen to Christian music back then, the 77s were on their list of people that they thought of in like that of being influential. So, I mean, relevancy and all that, they are definitely on the list for a number of bands who are like, yeah, we looked at the 77s as somebody we wanted to strive to be like.
think it's gonna be hard to find like bands overall that fit all the criteria unless you kind of in the CCM type categories. But when you get into like more alternative rock, you're gonna find some really incredible bands, but they might not be so heavily on the straight up biblical content, right? Like the Choir, for example. That's another good example. I mean, they're still going strong, pumping out albums. I mean, I don't know how many albums they have, but I wouldn't say overall that a ton of their albums are super biblically strong. They're pretty poetic, and you got to kind of read between the lines, right? But incredible band nonetheless.
Definitely.
I listened to the 77s, but I didn't really listen to them until the 90s.
So keep talking, fellas.
So we going down the
when
list?
the music's playing, I feel rude.
Come on.
No, we gotta talk over it. We gotta be like jamming to it or
So-
sing along.
Lifesavers LSU, another one. You know, Mike Knott, poetic,
Yeah.
damaged, drama-filled artist.
Yeah. It's interesting too, though, because I mean, we'll still go through the list, but there are bands that I've definitely have either never heard of or have very little knowledge of. Unless you play something and like, oh yeah, that might ring a bell. But
I mean, most of the bands I'm pretty familiar with. The Josh, I really don't know what that band. I'm not familiar with Josh. It's like Joshua or
Joshua
Well, there
Tree.
was a band called Joshua.
it's just funny because they're all the same font, the same yellow. So it's just like, here's the bands.
Okay, you could do the PowerPoint next time, Robbie.
No, I'm just kidding. It's funny. But yeah, it's totally true though. I don't know nobody special. There are a couple that I've never heard of. Bloodgood.
I mean, how many albums did Nobody Special put out?
2, as far as I know. Were there more, Doug?
I think there was only 2. There might have been one more, like on blonde vinyl or
Two.
something.
Probably only
that
2
came
guys,
out-
but they were really nobody special, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're not gonna put
Well,
out
hey,
3 or
hey,
4.
hey, if you guys know, so that's Pat Nobody that goes on Facebook, right?
Yep.
And I think I'm getting that echo again. Let me mute my mic.
Yeah, you are.
Let me try it. Is that better?
Nope.
I muted Tom, and that got better last time. Okay, that didn't work.
Check 1.
But yeah, he's a big truther. He's even a flat earther too. So crazy enough, right?
Go figure.
He's got to get some points for that.
Well, since we're bringing up that stuff, is it his brother, the lead singer of Undercover, and who is probably the exact opposite of that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's moving on.
It's like Tom and Jared.
Yeah.
That's like who was it? Was it the most anti-conspiracy guy in Christian music? Was a Christian rapper called Jonah KJ52. I heard that guy is so anti conspiracies. So it is funny when you find out these people that are into those type of things and the ones that are just like, nope, don't talk about it at all. Apparently, Jonah is like crazy anti against anything to do with.
So what do you guys think of the forget it, Texas, forget it.
Yeah, we're gonna bring that up on the show. We'll like get banned.
When Nobody Special came out, it blew us away. We hadn't heard anything like it, like in my town. And they had a song that there was a lyric in the song singing about Jesus, and they just kept singing over and over, hanging on a tree like a piece of meat, hanging on a tree like a piece of meat, just describing the crucifixion. And we would go around singing that song, and yeah.
That's awesome. I haven't picked up a Nobody Special record in forever.
What was
Never
that?
heard of
What's the name of that track, Tom?
I couldn't tell you.
Piece of meat.
Piece of meat.
I couldn't tell you. But yeah, just the sound coming out of our speakers when we were playing that album. I remember my friend.
Keep talking.
Oh yeah.
My friend's cousin had that album, and we couldn't afford. Everybody couldn't afford to have the same tape, so we would trade them around or make copies of them and stuff. And Nobody Special, when he got that, we were like, "What is this stuff? This is crazy sounding."
Yeah, so this was 1987 when the first album dropped.
So it's late 80s.
So you got Steve Taylor, the mastermind behind a ton of different projects and a ton of different bands.
Oh yeah.
Still one of the best producers in Christian music.
Yeah, easily, yeah.
Randy Stonehill we covered.
Well, I think we could do it like this. Are there some artists on here that we would, cut? Because we talked about the choir, we talked about 77s, we talked about Altar Boys. Steve Taylor we're just talking about. Do you guys see any bands that we could
cut to actually narrow down to the top 10?
No, that we can just automatically cut.
Get rid of.
Just in our minds.
For me, easily I would cut the 77s, the choir, and Steve Taylor and Randy Stonehill.
Would you say Randy Stonehill more 70s?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay.
What about Bloodgood?
Still rocking and still kicking it.
Mm-hmm.
Sacred Warrior.
Sacred Warrior's on here a few times.
So I would say nobody special because they don't exist anymore. At least in relevancy. But
yeah, I mean,
but you meant by relevancy, you meant that you could hear it and appreciate their music today, correct, Chris? Not that they're still going as a band.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's classic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you go and listen to some of let's think about it from a secular world standard, right? Like if we were to listen to 50s, 60s, mostly 60s music, it'd be timeless, right? Like those hits that came out during that time, they still play today. They're in movies, they're TV shows, and when you hear them, you didn't even listen to the music, but somehow you know every lyric to the song, right? Now that's not going to be the case with all Christian music, right? But does it have that same appeal? That's
to each his own, though, isn't it?
Well, I'm in general.
In general, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if you look at this list, the top artist that's on this list for the 80s would have easily been Steve Taylor.
Yeah.
And then probably second would have been Bloodgood. And then third would have been Altar Boys as far as played on the radio, album sales, any of that kind of stuff.
But you got to put a Bloodgood on. I'm so curious. Johnny, have you heard of Bloodgood or have you heard the music?
I have not.
I have not either. Were they that big? It's just surprising to me that
were they that good?
That Detonation album, I wore it out.
Yeah.
So good.
They were, as far as besides
who?
So besides Stryper at that time, Bloodgood was the number one Christian metal band.
Oh wow, okay.
I think they sold almost over 1 million records just of Detonation and their first album.
But when you compare, say, a Bloodgood with a Bride or Petra or Stryper, obviously these are B list kind of. This is more of an alternative. Or are you saying they were up at that caliber in the 80s?
They were up at that.
Yeah.
They were bigger than Bride at that time.
Wow. Cool. I gotta check out their music. I didn't know. I have not.
They had a song called Crucify, which is probably their number one song, which is about the crucifixion of Jesus.
That's your shirt you're wearing.
Point of view of Pilate.
Oh.
And the singer would, when he's still around. He's very dramatic and did a lot of drama and very theatrical. And he would dress the part when he was doing that song called Crucify, and he would act out the part of Pilate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So Les Carlson, the lead singer, he actually was in the 70s hit on Broadway, Hair. And was it Hair? No, yeah, wait. Yeah, Hair. And he was, I believe, in the movie as well. So it's they were huge because they were on an independent label, and they were selling 500,000
Wow.
records
Crazy.
back in the 80s for Christian rock. That's huge.
Wow.
Well, before we move on to this list, I did want to talk about Steve Taylor and plead a case for the relevancy that he has still today. The impact on music. When he, I would say as a solo artist, I wouldn't put him on the top 10, but I think he's got to be mentioned within a case for his production. And then ultimately even the owning the label in the 90s when he owned Squint Records, which put out a lot of mainstream Christian crossover acts like Sixpence None the Richer, Chevelle at that time, LA Symphony. So he had some really amazing groups that he had on Squint. Ultimately, they had a big falling out of the label, but still those artists went on to obviously Chevelle left the Christian scene, but Sixpence None the Richer went on to do some amazing stuff throughout their career, and they're still doing music today, but
Off of one single.
Right. So
Steve Taylor was also, in my opinion, I thought it was really cool because he was a filmmaker as well, and that's what he started out doing. He really influenced me. He made all of his own videos. He shot them and directed them. And I didn't get into Steve Taylor until the 90s, but I did go backwards and fall in love with everything he did in the 80s. Just a master songwriter. Of course, he wrote a ton of the Newsboys hit songs.
Yeah.
So, and producer. He also produced Guardian. He produced just a ton of stuff.
Newsboys.
Really, he just knew what he was doing.
Yeah, his name's associated to a lot of incredible albums for sure. And
Well,
bands.
And he had also a great band called Chagall Gravera. And
they were on a major label too.
Right. They were, I believe, on Atlantic, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, it's just, the guy is amazing. So,
and he was strong in his faith too. So, so that's one to consider. So we'll come back to these charts. So next we're going to jump into Robbie and Johnny submitted a combined list. And so we've got some things in here to consider for these top things. So what list could we start off with of the 80s and not talk about if we're gonna go back to this original slide and start it off with Amy Grant, right? I mean,
I was gonna say David Meese, but Johnny would have no part of it, so it did make the list.
You have something against David Meese?
No, I don't at all. I just thought I'd throw it out. These funny names that people are like, what happened to David Meese? Tim Miner. Who remembers Tim Miner? You know what's funny?
I love Tim Miner.
You know what's crazy story, Tom? I became Christian. I was over at a friend's place and I was talking about the music I was into. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I got a collection. I think you might like that. The very first Christian CD that I was given before I started buying Christian music was Tim Miner, the black and white one. He's on the tricycle. That's my first.
I had the one or two before that. And it was one of the very first Christian tapes I got, probably one of the first 5.
That's crazy. It was my first CD, and I was given it before I even started buying Christian music. But anyways.
I was just going to say with Tim Miner, he was influential with a lot of people too.
Sure, but in no way would it be a top 10. You know what I mean? When you're starting to think of this, relevant today, these guys were, they were in that style, but then they kind of, fell away. They didn't continue on through the 90s. And
it's true.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of a blast from the past. That's kind of fun when you get discussing all these different people and you're like, oh yeah, that's funny that Tim Miner was your first cassette, Tom, because it was my first CD, which is funny.
Well, Tim Miner and John Gibson were very similar.
Yes.
Both had some mainstream success.
Gibson was very talented for sure. I think he had a.
But John Gibson did not produce Tammy Faye Baker's album.
No.
Tim Miner did.
Tim Miner did. Oh, I didn't know that.
But they were two white guys that could soulful sing.
Yeah, and that's what I was
Tim
into.
Miner, a white guy.
Yeah, he's kind of, well, yeah, I think he is. I
Hawaiian.
think it's still white guy. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, so what list could we, I mean, when we start their list, I mean, when you hear this, right? I mean, this is like super classic 80s. Like everybody probably heard this. Like when if you were listening to any type of Christian radio station and this would happen, it would be like this. And it was like, I mean, come on. It's like,
This is CCM radio.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
in my town, Thursday night was roller skating night. So was Christian roller skate night. So we would go out for 2 hours and roller skate, and that's where we learned most of our music.
Nice.
Yeah.
Roller skating. Wow, really showing the
tell me you
age,
did-
Tom.
Don't tell me they didn't spend Amy Grant back then, right?
And
Yeah, but you got to remember, who picked Sandy Patti?
That had to be Robbie.
I actually didn't.
That was Johnny.
Johnny, come on
Huh?
now.
Well, hey, we'll go through it. But I mean, Amy Grant, 21 top 10 songs in the 80s, 5 of them number 1, still is around today, still continues to make music, and or CCM plays, Christian radio plays her stuff. It's hard to argue
Yeah.
on most of Amy Grant.
I don't think anybody was arguing Amy Grant. They were
I
looking.
think they're disputing the Sandy Patti. I think Doug's quite
Oh.
disgusted, actually.
She had 5 songs at number 1 in the 80s.
Yeah, but that's because no one else had anything else to listen to.
But okay. So Sandy Patty's voice. So you do have to give her some credit, right? I mean, she has some pipes, right? She can sing, and her songs, they were classic songs that were if we're looking at that first one, she inspired probably so many of the female artists, which Amy Grant, Sandy Patti, they were by far the 2 biggest Christian artists that impacted probably every other female Christian artist that came after it. I mean, would you guys disagree with that?
she had a great backing band. It was Toto, by the way.
That was seriously? How did I not know that?
Well, they did a lot of the studio work on some of the albums. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at this list and I'm like, this is what my parents listened to.
And then, hey, this is overall Christian top 10 in the 80s. Like you gotta think outside your genre, or if you're into like heavy metal and rock, you gotta kind of think overall.
Hey,
So I don't listen to Sandy Patti. I don't
I'm
like
not
throw
saying
it
I
on.
listen to a lot of this stuff.
No.
I'm just saying that if you want to look at the scope
I-
of
The only thing I listen to
and
there on that list is maybe 3.
Oh.
But I like how
thought we were
I liked how
supposed to pick
Robbie
up
popped in Vector.
I know, I
Like,
had to
next
throw
to
it in.
DC
I had to throw it
Talk.
in.
I just noticed that. I'm like,
I know, and Vector. That's awesome. It's so classic because it's so
To be
bizarre.
honest,
You got
you
the CCM. It's like Amy Grant, Imperials, Sandy Patti, Vector. It's like
and everybody's
Michael
like,
Card,
who?
Russ Taff, Vector. It's like, that does look pretty ridiculous. I gotta admit. It's awesome though. I love it. Anyways, but the whole thing is we're having a debate. This is the fun. This is what people are coming to watch
no,
the
I
show
know.
for. They want to see us get heated here.
I know. Well,
That's the fun part.
Twilight Paris is great.
and it's a good thing that your parents listened to all this stuff.
Hey, I bet a lot of people got saved at Twilight Paris concerts.
Oh,
for sure.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
These are the days of Elijah.
and we can never go bad with Michael W. Smith.
No.
Petra,
Petra, I mean, yeah.
Michael Card, Russ Taff, Metals album, one of the best CCM albums.
Hey, the reason why we got into Russ Taff is because he had a song in the Lost Boys.
Was that his song?
Well, we associated it with him.
Was that with the weird guy motioning with the saxophone?
Yes.
So what do you guys think of the Imperials 1980s? Obviously, they changed their band quite drastically. And when you listen to it today, like for example, like that whole album that I was just playing, is super solid and is a CD seller. Big shout out to our sponsor, bornagainsound.com.
That's bornagainsound.com.
There you go, Johnny. Thank you. Imperials, that album is super expensive, by the way, on CD.
Bornagainsound.com.
I need a commercial from him. But so what do you guys think of what did you guys think of the Imperials? Because obviously when we look at biblical content, solid. Long-lasting impact, I would say, is there. What are we thinking, like a group like that, which is, they're super iconic and they've been around for forever.
Not relevant for today.
I remember seeing the flats in the posters in the store and thinking that is definitely a band that I would not be interested in.
Right?
Because it was your parents' music, right? Like that's what you associate with. Yeah, and that's what happens every generation. Like you probably weren't a big fan of the Gaithers either, were you?
No.
Exactly, right? But they sold like insane. I work Christian retail, and every time they would come out with a new DVD, CD set, it wanted to be a line out the door and down the street waiting for the doors to open. When I was working Christian retail, like it just sold. It was so popular, but I couldn't stand it.
So
must be a generational thing.
Look at this, though. Amy Grant had 21 singles in the 80s.
Yeah.
Only one band had more than her, and that was the Imperials with 25.
Wow.
Radio singles.
Wow.
Yeah, but
25 radio singles.
Hey, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. The Imperials had an album cover where they were parachuting out of an airplane, correct?
That's possible.
I'm trying to remember.
I'm sure someone could in the chat could look it up real quick and say, yes, confirmed, parachutes.
Yeah.
Because I just remember my parents having that album for that and Bashing the Code. I don't know why I'm remembering these albums like now, but
Bashing the Code is not going to make this list.
Right.
That's one thing amazing with music, how it can just bring back your memories. Like, you know what you were wearing, what you were doing that day. Like, it's incredible how music can do that. It's just timeless.
So if we could do one thing right here on this list, would you guys all agree that this group right here is an absolute lock for our top 10 list, and give away at least one? Let's see if we can all at least agree to this. Stop it if you already know what it is. So,
Color Song by Petra.
Yeah, I mean,
classic. Yeah, no dispute.
Petra, yeah, definitely belongs on the list.
Oh yeah,
100%. Petra's a lock.
It's a
I
lock.
would say. Michael W. Smith would have to be a lock.
Stephen Curtis.
Okay, so tell us why 80s
or
Stephen
90s.
Curtis stick. Yeah. Why? Yeah.
I don't know if the 80s was Stephen Curtis's decade as much as the 90s were.
That's completely fair. I mean, he had 3 albums in the 80s, but I look at more. I weigh heavily on relevance, yes, of songs back then, but also relevant to today. And I know that we're looking at relevance from back then, but if they're able to continue to make music and be relevant to CCM radio, then I would have to have Stephen Curtis Chapman on that list. Now, if we go from the 80s alone, you're right, probably not.
Okay, I mean, so what is even DC Talk? I wouldn't put for the 80s.
Correct.
I would put them more
for 90s. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they had one album in the 80s.
Yeah, there's one. I think it was 89, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we cutting probably the greatest DC Talk song of all time?
Bring it on, Chris.
I mean,
Jesus Freak was in 90s.
Bring it on. No, he's gonna bring in the 80s. It's gonna be.
I mean, we're about to cut this.
So we're basing it all on one song then.
No, we definitely are going to cut it. But I think he's going to play it. I think he's queuing up. He's queuing up the classic.
I'm curious as to, because I could
so
put a lot of people.
It's so corny, man.
Are we about to cut this? Are we about to cut this?
Cut it off.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So bad. Like if you actually think about like how big DC got, how bad their first album was.
You try to think of how did they get so good?
How?
with
Yeah,
that
how?
album?
How? It was the time.
It was
It
because the Newsboys took them on tour with them.
was also the right time, and it was like a boy band kind of, that whole thing was just starting to explode, right? So they just
DeGarmo and Key. I saw them on their premiere tour opening up for DeGarmo and Key.
Wow.
Huh.
Dude, Toby's still spitting on this. He's not that bad.
Oh yeah, but for the 80s, he definitely won't be in the list. I mean, there's
He
ones
did
that are
not.
so much more pioneers. Yeah.
No, DC Talk can't make this list.
No.
No.
Okay, what about Vector?
No. No. I just think they're cool. They're just awesome. And by the way, I want to get the first 3 albums. I got Chris on it. He says they're massively rare. I hope he can find them for me because I got Time Flies, which is that compilation, but they're so hard to find the first 3 CDs.
Gosh, I think I used to have those, and I don't know what happened to them.
I pay top dollar for it for sure. Like I've been looking for them forever.
All right,
In cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
In crypto.
okay, hold
Yes.
on.
I will pay you in Pulse Chain,
just a
PulseX, or Hex.com.
Michael Card.
I think I got one of them.
Michael Card.
Wow, nice. Is that your collection in the back? Just like, is that CDs like that
Yes.
I'm seeing? Wow,
Yes.
that's all I got to say. That is sweet when he has them all displayed like that, Chris. Like I love that. That's what your background needs to be the same.
Yeah, right.
It should inspire you.
It should inspire Chris.
Chris has got like he's like I can't fit them all in my screen.
He has a wife that allows him to do that.
No, dude, I got you covered. Take a picture of it, green screen it on in the back. Your wife will be okay with that.
Yeah, right. It's a mess. It's a mess. All right. So let's Johnny or Robbie, you guys want to talk about Michael Card at all?
He had 8 albums in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he definitely has a lot to be backed up by. Now, would you
listen to any of those 8 albums?
No.
So
But then again, I also wouldn't listen to any Michael W. Smith stuff either.
Really?
Really? You wouldn't listen to Smitty? Oh man, when he's in the studio next, I'll be telling him a couple of things. I'll be like, yo,
Johnny,
no, it's true though. When's the last time you listened to a full Smitty album? Like, I mean, back to back. I mean, it's rare. If you want to go with this, Chris, if you want to talk about these albums that you're going to listen to front to back, 20 years later, I mean, this is
The
going to be a
Big
small list.
Picture is the one that I would pick to listen to back to back.
Eye to Eye would be for me.
I mean, Amy Grant wouldn't even fall on that list if it was listening to any of
I
her
could
albums.
listen to a greatest hits album, but
Sure.
not
Yeah.
anything.
No,
100%. Sure.
sure, yeah.
I couldn't listen to Twilight Paris, Sandy Patti, Imperials, Michael Card.
Petra, I think on that list we're going to take it has to be Petra for sure.
Petra's the top from that list. Yeah.
For sure.
I
Thank
will
you,
still
Chris.
say Amy.
Why are you playing the most weak songs by these artists?
I think on this list you could take Amy Grant, Imperials, Michael, and Petra.
Well, Friends is his
whole
biggest
list.
song, Doug. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So those are the 4 that I would take from this list to move on.
Here's a quick question for all the music gurus here. Who would you say was similar to Vector in the 80s? I'm just curious because I really appreciated Vector because they were like that unique sound that was huge in the 80s in the secular industry, but it didn't exist in the 80s. It was all either heavy metal or it was other stuff. It was really rare to find something like Vector. That's why I really appreciate Vector and I really like it, is because it's pretty much the only thing in that caliber in the 80s, in my opinion. I mean, I know you can get into like some old Amos and stuff like that. It had kind of an 80s flair to it, but something like Vector, I think, is really rare. Unless you guys know of something.
I'm not familiar enough to make a call on that.
All right. What do you think, Doug? Just real quick, and we'll move on.
I don't know. I think if I had to pick it, pick an artist that Vector was like. I mean, ultimately they were more of a underground kind of alt rock before alt rock was a thing.
But it was like a
And-
synth rock, right? It was like an alt synth type
Yeah.
rock. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say Depeche Mode or anything. It's hard because
No, I'm saying in the Christian industry, not don't give me a comparison to secular. I'm saying, what would you say is the second closest to Vector in the 80s? That even it can be an album. Because I know there's some bands that they went with like a real 80s kind of synth vibe, and then they changed more rock, but they have albums like that as well. I'm just curious.
I'd have to say probably Dead Artist Syndrome.
Dead Artist Syndrome.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I'll check it out. We'll move on. I just was curious.
Can I want to say this though. So we always made fun of if you like this band or listen to this, you should listen to this. There's no updated version of that for 2022. We need to come up with something like that, because the amount of people that will send messages saying, I listen to this secular band, who is a comparison. We don't have those 80s and 90s.
What happened to that?
But we don't have that. We don't have the bands in the Christian music industry that sound that they're. This is the weakest Christian music has been in a long time as far as genres.
Yeah.
So I would say that that's a hard call now.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true.
even in secular music, though, it's a hard call to what's good. My opinion.
Yeah.
So we already talked about Michael W. Smith, but the name that really sticks out on this next list to me right off the bat is D-Boy.
D-Boy Petra, though?
D-Boy Petra. And most people don't know who D-Boy is. But D-Boy has a super interesting story. He was murdered. He was probably one of the most evangelistic artists who were just still reaching the streets. And he was like the first martyr of Christian hip hop, like well before Tupac, Biggie. Christian hip hop had D-Boy, and D-Boy was instrumental in kicking off the careers of like T-Bone, SFC, all of those early groups. He broke way, paved the, some of those early ways for it to even start to be accepted out there. Because he was signed to Frontline, so he's putting out, something on a mainstream Christian label, which did open up those doors. D-Boy, I don't know why you put him on there, Doug, but super instrumental for so many of the hip hop scene, for so many different artists, and he had a true heart to serve Christ.
So when I came together with my list, I didn't think of radio play because the stuff I listened to wasn't on the radio.
Sure.
There was no music magazines except for HM or Heaven's Metal magazine. So these were the bands that were more influential to me listening to music and getting into Christian music. Like Michael W. Smith, he was my gateway.
Yeah.
He was, I think, my first Christian concert. I
think he's a gateway for a lot of people.
But D-Boy, I grew up listening to the Fat Boys and like Beastie Boys and Run DMC. And when I heard D-Boy stuff, it was just it was different. Well, one, because Tim Miner produced his record, and it was street, but it was also very commercial. Like I knew what commercial was back then, but he was just straight up. You knew where he stood with God. You can never go wrong with Petra. I mean, you got the Crucified, one of the number one.
Pause it, Doug.
One thing I found, touring town to town, is that people are receptive. Our sound is creative by the creator. Satan tries to keep up.
Definitely, you could tell we should go through hip hop and like listening to the 80s to the 90s. You could hear.
Well, what's funny is that the same day that I got the first D-Boy record, I got the DC Talk record, and I threw away the DC Talk record and kept the D-Boy record.
You weren't down with the DC Talk?
I was not down with the DC Talk.
Huh. Can I just say it was May the 26th of 2022 that I just found out that it was called Heaven's Metal. I always thought the magazine was heavy metal. I had no idea until this moment in time, because I used to get it sent to my house, but I always thought it was because it had the H and the M. I thought it was for heavy metal.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
We'll have to have Doug Van Pelt on, who started Heaven's Metal.
That's funny. Yeah, there you go. There's my one thing that I've learned today.
So yeah, this is a D-Boy was super early hip hop, but it was not like it was respected, and I don't even, and D-Boy did not even like his first record because it was too commercial.
That style, though, even though it seems corny now, listening to it, it was so in. It was so popular, and it was so good. Like that's what people don't get with
D-Boy for his bold lyrics. Like I think he had a song called "Satan Stompin'." There was another one that was just in your face, spiritual warfare, bold lyrics, and I thought, wow, when we found out that he got shot, and we listened to his music. We we were kids, we were teenagers. We're like, oh man, did the devil take him out, man, for what he was doing?
He got shot?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. Wow.
I believe he's a former Crip.
A D-Boy was.
Yeah. He's either a former Crip or a former Blood.
Oh, okay, that's why I love. That's why I love T-Bone. Tom is especially like his debut album. It was so spiritual. Like there's so much spiritual warfare. I used to listen to that, and it was so inspirational.
I wasn't even really into the music, but the lyrics would just pump you up. You know what I'm saying?
I know, it was great because it was like, hey, this is rough and hard, but it's against the devil. How could you be mad at this? It was great. It's like take an AK and knock the devil in the head, and you're just like, yeah, it's kind of funny, but
So my list was number 10, Michael W. Smith, number 9, D-Boy, number 8, Petra, number 7, The Crucified, 6, Sacred Warrior, 5, White Cross, 4, Vengeance Rising, 3, Deliverance, 2, Bride, and number 1, Stryper. If I would have on any day be listening to music, that's pretty much how it would go.
Sure. Yeah.
So
and I mean, when it came to my list, it was, Petra was kind of the thing. Stryper, you could have put on it too. We could have swapped a number of different artists. It was just trying to, knowing that I figured that you would pick some of these people, Doug. I was wanting to go with people maybe that wouldn't have been on your list.
I see that now. That's a good pick, Johnny.
Right?
I don't know if anybody can see this. I got this record. I actually got the tape from the mall, and I recently rebought the record. It's Heavy Righteous Metal. Have you ever seen this, Doug?
Yes, I have.
And, on this is the first time I heard that song, Bride, Metal Might, and I was like, oh my, we were blown away, of course, by all these bands. But I wore this tape out back in the day.
That is, how did you find it on vinyl?
I can't remember. I think maybe on Discogs. I just put a search in for it and found it.
I've had it at bornagainsound.com in the past.
That's Born Again Sound.
Do you have it on vinyl, Chris? Did you have it on vinyl?
I did have it on vinyl, cassette and CD version. So everybody sleeps on Born Again Sound.
.com.
Do you actually listen to vinyl? Like I know you collect it, but do you listen to? I know Tom.
I do. I have a record player actually right here.
Chris, do you listen to vinyl?
When I'm doing design work, I listen to it.
Oh, okay, on vinyl. Yeah, nice.
I listen to vinyl all the time because I have to check to make sure if there's a little scratch on there that it's not.
That does make sense.
Yeah, so.
It's incredible to think like with all these technological advances, vinyl's still better sounding than CD.
It's debatable. That's very debatable.
I know it is, but okay, well, an 8-track, like a VCR tape recording on that is better quality than a CD, hands down. It's like one of the best quality sounds you can do. Look it up. It'll blow your mind. But yeah, it's weird how like as technology moves forward, it actually gets worse off in actual pure sound quality. It gets more synthesized and more compressed.
I listen to vinyl, but I don't have a record player anymore. So if anybody has one that they would like to donate to my fund to get a new one, that would be great.
Yeah, Doug is actually in the need of some prayers, guys. His day job, he works with he's out there really doing what a lot of people don't do, and he chose it to be a career where he actually helps out troubled kids. And so keep Doug in your prayer, because his job's not easy and stressful, and he's working with some of the worst kids out there, and hopefully he gets an opportunity to share Christ with them at some point in their life. So
definitely
keep him in your prayer. So so Vengeance Rising, they were on the list before. White Cross, another big band. Sacred Warrior, Crucified, we talked about them on the last show. They got banned. And then hey, I see Josh Laurie in the chat room. Hey Josh, we miss you. And then obviously Stryper. We'll spend some time at the end talking about Stryper. So let's go ahead and get to the next list. We got 2 more lists to get through. Then let's just take the gloves off, and we're not going to be super nice. Well, let's debate this and get a top 10 list. Okay, so here's my list. All right, so I went much different than a lot of people. So instrumental, SFC, Soldiers for Christ. Only one 80s album. PID, I believe they had 2. Preachers in Disguise. Super instrumental in the next era of Christian hip hop, and they didn't suck. None of these groups sucked. I thought they were all, I think that first PID record is like right up there with like some Run DMC stuff. Would you guys disagree with that?
Here we are.
It's
it
solid.
was an amazing album. I loved it. I love the song. Let Me See Your Fruit. Get You a Bible. I'm trying to remember some of the other tracks, but very biblical. They definitely fall into,
I'm not looking at your dress. I'm not looking at your suit. All I ever want to see is your fruit. So let me see your fruit.
It's so great that those drum beats are so great.
Especially if you're a huge like fan from a Beastie Boy era, right?
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, I saw SFC and PID open up for the Newsboys.
Oh wow.
It was a
There's
really
always those weird mixes when it comes to concerts back then.
Oh yeah, and both SFC and PID were wearing backpacks, and I couldn't understand why they were wearing backpacks on stage. It was the weirdest thing. And then every b-boy I met after that, they always had a backpack on their back. So different.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is when, this is in an era like when some of these groups were just getting put on. We see a lot of like all those bands. They were instrumental in getting them in front of, basically, let's put it like this: they're putting them in front of white crowds for the first time in their lives, and the church was like, really shocked by this. I mean, early Christian hip hop, although right now, it's probably one of the biggest genres within Christian music due to Lecrae and everybody who's making Christian hip hop. It's on Winter Jam, it's on all these big things. But back in the day, that and metal were shunned by the church.
Oh yeah.
And you know,
yeah, for sure.
it was, you know, getting on tours with some of these bands like Newsboys and some of this other stuff where, you know, they started to really do that. And you know, let's you know, let's give credit where credit's due. You know, DC Talk, you know, we laughed a little bit about, you know, their early hip hop, you know, days, but they were super instrumental in breaking down those doors.
They opened the door, no doubt.
They were, yeah.
And so,
I mean, they were on Rap City. They were doing Rap City and stuff. They were one of the first, I believe, to be showcased. So,
you know, one of the things that really, for me, I was not into. I remember when DC Talk came out, SFC. All my friends loved the hip hop. I was not crazy into it. I did like D-Boy, but one of the things that broke down a wall for me, and Doug, you probably laugh at this, but when Mark Solomon did a hip hop album, you know, I mean, it was a vanity album, but it broke. It showed me that I could, you know, that somebody that I liked musically it was okay to like this music. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'd say his album wasn't that bad of an album. It just didn't get any critically acclaim because what does the guy from The Crucified know how to rap?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but he's actually really good at it.
It's sort of like the
I
Vanilla
liked it
Ice of the
personally.
Christian realm.
What'd you say?
It was sort of like the
Vanilla
Vanilla Ice of the Christian realm.
Yeah.
Like sort
No,
of
that would be Toby Mac.
No, I'm talking about when it dropped because it was like the same era because those are like early 90s. So
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Native Son. I mean, yeah, it was.
it didn't sound anything
Guys,
like
you guys are all missing. You're into the hip hop. You're totally missing Stephen Wiley, man. I mean, you got to get into Bible Break. I don't know if
That was
that's
my
on the
first.
agenda.
That was my
but-
first introduction to like Christian hip hop. Was
I had
Stephen
never
Wilder.
heard it until
Right.
Chris actually debuted for me a couple months ago, and I'm like, nope.
serious?
I'd never
No.
in all my hip hop days, I'd never seen that video. Chris showed me, and I'm like, dang. I don't know how that
all
passed
right.
me by.
Don't forget about Michael Peace. We got to give props to him.
Yeah,
You know, that's the one thing about these lists.
I was
and I'm
gonna
looking
leave
at,
him
like,
off, but I had him on there.
Did you?
I did. I had,
Okay.
I had.
Well, yeah,
I
I
had
know.
Michael
Yeah.
Peace on there.
Yeah.
I had Michael Peace, but
Okay.
to be honest
What
with
do you
you guys, you know, how easy could it have been to put Bible Break on here? But you can't.
No.
You can't have Stephen Wiley on here for Bible Break.
No, it's like a one-time. No,
It was not that great.
it's not even that. It's like a one-hit wonder. It had no relevance at all going forward. It really was kind of just the first, right?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, guys.
Chris knows all the lyrics. He's not gonna lie, guys. He knows all the lyrics.
I'll play this song to help my son learn the books of the Bible. So if you guys
That's cool.
if you guys are out there and you're like, you know, trying to get your kids to learn the books of the Bible, this is how you do it. This is exactly.
The Bible is the holy book, so let's open it up and take a look.
You know this one, Johnny, right?
I know the song. I don't know the lyrics.
You don't know the books of the Bible? Come on.
I remember this.
Ezekiel.
And then we got Dale, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, on the mic, and they hung because of the night.
Dude, we got to find Stephen Wiley and have him on.
Oh, yeah, oh, it'd be the best, man. Was it 88? Was that like 88 or 85 when he did that?
85.
85.
We're not going to get blocked for this, guys. I can tell you that.
No, for sure not.
Stephen Wiley's like sitting at home going, they're playing my song.
He's like, strike. I'm striking them right now.
From the curse. For sickness, Jesus gave us health, and for poverty, he gave you wealth. From the curse of the law.
Yeah, so
That's
so
good
you got-
times.
yeah, if you
So-
get, yeah. So that's
So
Stephen.
Chris,
Wiley.
what's with your list? Why
Okay,
Carmen?
so I knew everybody's going to pick different stuff. So I wanted to pick some different stuff that I thought could make a list, but would be also cool to talk about.
I'm surprised you don't have one guy on there that I thought for sure was going to be on your list, and it's not there at all.
You know, I'll explain that. I can
All
explain
right.
that too.
All
But
right.
I think Carmen was super instrumental throughout the 80s. You know,
The champion.
Yeah,
How
we
can you
lost.
go wrong with the champion?
We lost Carmen. You know, as cheesy as everybody made Carmen jokes,
Yes.
that guy, I will tell you this: if you look at biblical content and the heart of that guy, doing free concerts,
man. Yeah.
I mean, you know, just wanting to get the word out. You know, I mean, you can't find a guy, even with that cheese factor, and even when he rapped.
Who did you do the rap with again? Who was it?
He did too many raps, way too many.
Oh, that's true. He did
Didn't
too.
he do it with T-Bone though?
Yeah. Yes, I think he did one with
He
T-Bone.
did with T-Bone, DC Talk.
Yes,
Which
DC,
I'm not,
yeah.
you know, we can play in the '90s show because
Yeah,
that was
but
a '90s track.
but understand this. I mean, I toured with Carmen on the standard tour. I did Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and I want to say New York City. And that guy sold out every show. It was a free show, and he made more money doing that than any Christian artist would have ever done charging for tickets. And a lot of that money he just gave to charities.
Mm-hmm.
That guy was amazing.
Yeah,
Goofy, but amazing.
He was safe, and that's probably why
Yeah.
parents let him listen. That's probably how he got so big.
Yeah, I remember getting
Sure.
the champion. I don't know if it was the champion. It called the champion, but I remember it was a black and white cover with him with an apple, and it was red on the cover of the album, and it had the champion on there. Chris, you're muted.
Yeah, no, Carmen was huge. There's no doubt about it. Even if he's not your type of cup of tea, he's still massively influential. Sold a lot of albums, and like I said, I can't even imagine how many people were saved through Carmen concerts. I mean, and the fact, like you said, he did free concerts. I mean, that spoke volumes to me. I mean, I went out and just supported him just because of that.
Yeah, and I would say so. Moving on the list, this guy, you know, Rich Mullins.
Classic.
There's not too many people that I would put in Rich Mullins' category, and ironically, it's the last guy on this list, which is Keith Green.
Right.
You know, Rich Mullins, Keith Green. I mean, just the heart of these two men that were taken way too soon. You know, you can't go wrong with. You know, I don't think we could go wrong putting Rich Mullins on that list. I don't think we could. He may not make that list, but you know, super instrumental. You know, his song. I mean, think about how many churches did that song that I just played. You know, everybody knows the lyrics of it. Everybody grew up listening to that song. You know, and it will live on. You know,
we should do sometime in the future. Write this down. Some like the top 10 singles of all time or impacted singles. Like "Awesome God" would be probably one of those ones on that list.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting show to do the singles. Yeah, huge. You obviously have to have "Mercy Me" in there.
Well, it's the #1 single of all time.
Of all time. It's even surpassed crazy records even on the secular side. It's unbelievable what the records it's done. Yeah, it'll be a good show.
But yeah, no, I mean that Rich. Yeah, Rich. You can argue it for sure.
I put Daniel Amos back on there because I thought they were super instrumental. Of course, Petra. DeGarmo.
I mean, these guys are big when all of a sudden in the 90s, they're doing compilation dedication albums to these people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they did multiple ones for Rich Mullins and Keith Green and stuff. So that's another factor too. It's like, I don't know, nothing against Daniel Amos, but I'm saying how many massive compilations of like CCM artists all come together and say, hey, let's do a tribute album, you know, in that way.
Now that just did happen with a guy earlier on the list that we said we were going to cut, which was Randy Stonehill.
That's right.
So there's a big tribute album out right now to him, and he's still living. So yeah, but you know,
but that's always a test. Like that's a testament to how influential or how big someone was on the impact of that music industry based on if people will come together and actually do an entire album and dedication to that person, whether they're dead or alive. It's still, it's a telltale sign, in my opinion, who would make a top 10. Yeah.
So DeGarmo and Key, you know,
I totally forgot about them. I
Classic.
don't know why I did or how.
Incredible band. Yeah.
mean,
For
but
rock,
they-
I mean, one of the greats for sure.
look
They're
at-
on my list, and here's I still have my first DeGarmo and Key tape.
Wow.
This album was so influential in my Christian life and inspiring me, you know, just encouraging me, going to school, being a witness, being a bold witness for Christ from beginning to end. I bought this tape, and then I went out. They had a video. Remember VHS tapes?
Yeah.
I went out and bought the video. Saw them in concert. That's when I saw DC Talk. DC Talk were just, man, 3 young kids. And I remember I didn't know who they were, but I had this little flyer, and they all signed, you know, I got their autograph. I got Eddie DeGarmo's autograph on my ripped up jeans after the show. So
tell me you still got that stuff.
No, I don't. I wish I had the
Chris
autograph.
is at Salvia.
That
I
would
think
be
he's just like,
cool.
oh, that would be
Yeah.
worth such a mint, eh, Chris? Tell us how much, Chris, that would be worth.
Think the amazing things that you'd be able to get at bornagainsound.com.
Yeah, I know. I know. Hey, wait. Yeah, no, I still got it. Yeah, hold on a second.
I think I have my jean jacket that I like did all. There you go. Bornagainsound.com. I have a jean jacket that I put like I did the logos of Stryper, Bride, Deliverance, and Vengeance on the back, and then I was able to get it autographed by the guys at Stryper and Deliverance. So, Chris, how
Does
much
it
can I
still
get for
fit?
that? Because I need. No, yeah,
I didn't
right.
know that. Josh just said you two are big Daniel Amos fans. I didn't know that about you two. I've met all those guys. I mean, Bono and Edge and all that. I was pretty much a groupie for a long time, but I got to meet them all and hang out for a bit.
Sometimes you wear sunglasses that Bono wears.
He's short. He's so short. He'd look way up at me and he's like, whoa, doggy. He'd look way up at me. It was like, he's a short dude.
Yeah, but when you're touching the ceiling, I mean, what do you do?
But he's also like 5, seriously 4. He wears these big boots and they're like honestly, like the heels are like this big.
I'd have to say one of the most moving
But
DeGarmo and
DeGarmo
Key
Key.
songs was Casual Christian for me.
Love that song.
They're a great band. The DeGarmo and Key are just incredible. Great band.
You don't have to twist my arm. We can put them in the top 10. I won't argue it.
But it's hard, right? We got to
we gotta
narrow this
get
down
there.
to top
We
10.
gotta
It's
get
going to be
there.
really tough. It's going
I've
to be
been
tough.
narrowing
I'm
mine
interested in
down.
seeing Tom's list. I want to see
Well,
Tom's list.
so if we look at DeGarmo and Key real quick, I mean, you look at the influence of Forefront Records, right? And that's you know,
Yeah.
that was that next step and that next stage of the career, and it is so instrumental. I mean, pretty much everything that came out on Forefront throughout the 90s dominated.
It was gold. It was like that was the label. Anything came up from Forefront did almost awesome. I think their track record was pretty phenomenal.
I think Dana Key was instrumental in discovering DC Talk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Them, Switchfoot, even though Switchfoot wasn't on that label, but Rebecca St. James.
Yeah. Man, there was just something about Dana Key when he gave an altar call and the sound of his voice and just the passion in it, you know, when he was talking about Jesus. Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, so we talked about Petra, Keith Green. Okay, so we talked about Keith Green a ton in the 70s. I will make a pitch that Keith Green still dominated the 80s, even though it was a very short run in the beginning of the 80s before he passed. But every single artist in ministry that had any success that were actually trying to do it correctly modeled their ministry after Keith Green. You know, to the point, to the time you get to like guys like Rich Mullins. There is no Rich Mullins without a Keith Green. You know, and just that example that he had set, and some of Keith Green's, you know, some of his strongest music came at that end of that ministry, when he actually impacted people to go into the ministry and become missionaries and go spread the gospel throughout the world. So so you can't talk about the 1980s without really showcasing, you know, what got through the life of Keith Green.
But I wouldn't say Keith Green was a dominating force for the 80s. He was a dominating force for the 70s.
Well, you know, his music was like 77 through like 82-ish, you know, like where it was. So it was very short. It was a short run.
It's amazing what Keith Green did in such a short amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
And the songs, he reminds me of somebody like Hank Williams, all those songs that Hank Williams wrote. But think if Keith Green, if Rich Mullins and D-Boy, if they would have lived, those guys would have had just amazing careers, I think. I mean, you know, way beyond, and probably Rich Mullins lived the longest out of those guys. But who knows what they would have went on to do.
Oh, I think you're right. But see, Tom, you almost had yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Nice. Mad at the World.
Okay.
Sweet. Speaking of 80s synth sound, their early stuff sounds very synth 80s.
Oh yeah.
Mad at the World, that's another band that sounds very synthy 80s type stuff.
I picked the bands that I listen to a lot, like multiple albums, listen to a lot, and that really influenced me spiritually. So there was, you know, there were other bands on, you know, that I left out. I should have put Michael W. Smith on here, because I listened to the Michael W. Smith Project and Eye to Eye over and over. And I actually have a band. I'm curious if anybody's heard of this band called The Holidays. And I bought this tape just by looking at it, never heard of it, and fell in love with these guys. It was produced by, well, it's on Broken Records, but produced by Taylor, lead singer of Undercover. And this is not available on CD. This was never pressed on CD, or I would own it.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, I picked the stuff that I listened to like over and over, multiple albums.
Jerusalem solid.
And Deliverance should have been on this list too, but
So
I mean,
Tourniquet. Tell us about Tourniquet, Tom.
When Tourniquet came out, especially that Stop the Bleeding record, it was a game changer, because it was just so, it was almost like alternative metal, what they were doing. Just so many crazy sounds, these grand names for the songs, the Scarlet Widow and the Virgin Bride. And they were teaching us stuff like about they were making these illustrations using medical terms like somnambulism, okay, some kind of a condition where you can't stay awake, and they're making that parallel to the church, you know, and you know, just lyrics that are just almost word for word out of the Bible sometimes, and a lot of these bands would do that.
So I don't think people realize that the metal aspect, like Vengeance and Tourniquet and Bloodgood, were that big, and they don't realize that they were selling hundreds of thousands of records on an independent Christian label.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Christian market didn't even pay attention to it and didn't even care about it.
So check this out, Doug. In my town, There was a Christian bookstore called the Bookery, and it actually just shut down a couple of years ago. They just decided to shut it down. But back when I was about 13, I would say I was about 13, 14 years old. The Christian metal music was so controversial that they wouldn't put it on the shelf. They had it in a drawer behind the desk, and you had to walk around and look at the tapes in the drawer.
That's crazy.
And that's how we would be like, it was like we were doing a drug deal or something. We look at the tapes in the drawer, and they would let us come around and look at the tapes in the drawer. One time my friend ordered a Believer tape, Extraction from Mortality, and his mom went to pick it up, and she looked at the cover. She's like, nope. And then I went there, and it was left over, and I bought it, out from underneath him. But eventually they moved, they were able to put the music on the shelf, people, but it was too shocking for their regular clientele to have these Christian metal bands out, in the general populace.
Yeah.
See, I worked for one of the first strictly Christian music stores. They didn't sell books. They didn't sell anything else. They just sold music. It was called Psalm 150 Music. And that's what they focused on, was the punk rock, the hardcore, the metal, and the rap. I mean, we had Michael Peace there. We had Dynamic Twins. We had all these other artists. Deliverance was there. And it was unheard of in the Christian music scene to have just a strictly Christian music store. And I'd have to say that it doesn't shock me that, because I believe family Christian stores, that you couldn't just walk up and buy a Tourniquet record or a Vengeance record.
Right.
That's why I think that if you're going to look at the 80s, you'd be very hard pressed to miss any of the bands that are like Bride and Bloodgood and Tourniquet, because they were so influential to Solid State, to Tooth and Nail, to anything that was out in the 90s and early 2000s.
No, yeah, I agree. And Intense Records, of course, when that came out, we didn't even know. We just saw the logo of Intense Records. We just bought it. Sacred Warrior, whoever it was. We knew it was going to be high quality.
Oh yeah.
So I'm playing some Whiteheart in the background. So
you're putting me to sleep with all the
ballads,
songs.
It's stuff you can talk over.
It's like one of my favorite Petra ones. Is that what's the name of the album there where it's all slow songs? Love that one.
So
tell us about Whiteheart and why you picked them.
Well, Whiteheart, I remember my friend bought the tape Emergency Broadcast, and I just thought of another band that should have been on this list for me, was a band called Servant. They had two albums called Light Maneuvers and Swimming in a Human Ocean that just blew me away. But Whiteheart was a tape that I borrowed from my friend, and we would trade them back and forth. Emergency Broadcast. Then there was one, the one that had the song Power Tools on it. It was called Freedom, Sing Your Freedom or something like that. Of course, we went and saw them in concert. There's Mount Vernon Nazarene College about 45 minutes away. We went down there and saw Whiteheart, and just it was cool because people had this this idea of Christian music, and they didn't know that it could be cool. And you were not ashamed if you were listening to Whiteheart, or if you were wearing, a Whiteheart T-shirt, or one of these other bands, the Crucified or Bride T-shirt, or even listen to their music. What we used to do is we used to take our tapes to school and carry it on our books with us. And, in between, before or after class, we would open it up, but we would use it to witness, like, hey, have you ever heard of this band? What do you think about this? Oh, what, oh, this is a crazy looking album cover. What is this? And I was like, man, that's actually Christian music. And some people would be like, they would be afraid to touch it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But and we had a group, of Christians in school, and a lot of people, because of the way we dressed in leather jackets and jean jackets and stuff like that, we weren't really thinking, of it. We were just doing our thing. We were just teenagers. But they would, when somebody else would show up dressed like us, they would assume everybody, were Christians that were dressing like this, because there were so many of us that would dress like this.
That's cool.
So
I used to just drive with people, and then I did whatever they were into. If it was like death metal, and I knew that, I'd be driving around. Man, this is hard. Man, who is this? Who is this? I'm like, it's Christian music. What? They're just like, yeah, it's mortification. It's like, well, I witnessed so much through music, Tom. It was insane. Like that was like, yeah, it's unbelievable how well it worked for so many people, and they're blown away. And I'm like, yeah. And they were just like drawn to it because of how good the music was, or how hard it was, or, whether it was hip hop or metal, it didn't matter. But if you found that music that spoke to that person, it was a great way to open the gospel to them. Like, so it made it so much easier, I found.
And then we always talked about, the verse where Paul said, I become all things to all people.
Yeah.
We use that a lot.
Yeah.
And even though there were some genres I didn't like, I wasn't back then. I got into hip hop later on. Okay. And I kind of went backwards and loved it and fell in love with SFC and, some of these other bands. But I didn't care at the time. I just wanted to witness to somebody.
Same
and
here.
I'm like, hey, if you like this music,
Same here.
Yeah. Then check this out.
Dude, I was like playing country music. I couldn't stand country music, and I was playing it for some cowboys or whatever, and they totally started getting into reading the Bible, and they loved this country band. I would listen to it all the time, and I couldn't stand it, but I was like doing it for them, and it didn't matter. Like, it just went away, and I actually started to somehow start appreciating country music. I'm not a huge fan, but I started over time appreciating it because, they kind of brought me into that world as well too. But yeah, I just bought anything on the shelf. That I'm like, I didn't care what it was. I listened to it. I'm like, that sounds wacky and crazy, but someone's going to be into it, not me. And I'd have it in my collection so I could use it for witnessing. So it's a huge deal with music. That's what I don't think people really understand. And Christian music wasn't just Christians singing. There was a whole ministry aspect in the spiritual realm. We only can see what that ripple effect had in people's life, when maybe we're in heaven, but I think it's enormous. And that's been lost, unfortunately. We can definitely talk about what it's like today, but to me, there's a huge spiritual implications. And I think part of the reason why it's been hammered so hard is I think spiritually it was very powerful, and Satan really didn't want it, prospering as much as it could. So we could all speculate, but I'm with you. When it comes to the music, it was amazing, the ministry opportunities. And we can only imagine how many people have been saved through a gateway such as Christian music.
Yeah, no doubt. It's an amazing tool. And, there were a lot of haters that came out talking about, you shouldn't do an altar call or something like that. But, and I can see their point, to a point, but how many people were saved at altar calls and are still saved? Their life was changed. They repented. They put their faith in Jesus down at whether it was a White Heart show, or we didn't mention Mylon Lefevre and the Broken Heart, man, talk about a guy that had a heart for the gospel. And we could go, any of these bands, they were masters at the altar call.
I would say if you ever went to a Bride concert, you were going to church, and it was a Southern gospel Bible reading church. Dale Thompson, that guy can preach like nobody's business. And it was like listening to I don't like to use the term fire and brimstone, but it was that style, that fierce, that hard, and that just pounding it and just saying, yeah, if you drive home tonight and you get in a car accident and you don't get saved, you're going to hell.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
So are we figuring out what the top 10 is?
All right. So, okay, guys, it is gloves off. And it is time
Let's do it.
What we're gonna do? Let me go ahead and I'll leave this up on the board, but let's. I'm gonna create a banner for the bottom, and we're gonna do it something like this, and we're gonna fill in, and I'll continue to update when we start figuring it out. So it's gonna be like this, as an example, and we're just gonna start filling in until we get our top 10. And so
obviously Petra.
Well,
has to be on that.
let's hold on. We're gonna let me edit that because we're
I
gonna
got
start
just
with number
obviously
10.
Petra.
We're gonna start with number 10 because we're actually gonna.
So
go,
this is actually we have to do this in order, or is this just 10?
Yeah.
It has to be
we're gonna,
in order.
We're gonna
Oh,
go
wow.
in order. We're gonna
Oh my
make it order
gosh.
stuff.
We only got 30 minutes to do it too, so let's
Exactly.
get to it.
Can we just figure out just a top 10 instead of an order?
I think we'll do this pretty fast if
Kill
you
'em.
actually think about it. We can knock out there's only 10, keep in mind, guys. So like on every list, you got to knock off like at least half.
So let's go ahead and remind ourselves. We can start at the beginning.
Okay, well, let's start at ours because we know which ones we can knock out pretty quick. I mean,
Okay. So let's go over here. What do
first
we
half
cut?
we can take out.
I kept 4 on our list.
Who you
Yeah.
keeping? Who you keeping?
Say
I
it, John.
had Amy Grant, Imperials, Michael W. Smith, Petra.
Okay.
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So are we? All right, everybody. Do we agree? Disagree? I'm gonna say I agree on Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, and of course Petra. That's what I'm agreeing to right now.
I would be agreeing to Petra and Michael W. Smith.
Petra and Michael W. Smith. Okay.
I'm going to give a vote for Amy Grant because we were some metalheads, but we did listen to her greatest hits collection album. And I know a lot of songs by heart. So I'll give a vote for her.
Okay. Is that all?
So it's just like kind of a like majority rules type vote because so
Yeah.
far Doug's
Yeah.
in the minority here.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, I would go with Amy Grant as far as 80s. but-
Admit it, Doug. You don't like Amy. It was all
I
the whole
don't,
baby
but-
that
You know what
really
we
wrecked
used to
it for you.
call it?
But Baby's 90, so we can't even.
No. But
I
that
have
part
Lead
wrecked
Me
it. He
On
liked
in my
Amy Grant
head.
until then.
Right now, Lead Me On is just playing on in my head.
I think we're good. I think we're good with those three. Let's move on.
So
Yeah, I think we're good.
who's writing this down?
Okay,
So-
so
Johnny's got it going.
Johnny, you writing it down? Okay.
Yeah, he's going good with it.
Okay.
so are we? So did we cut out Amy Grant?
No, we're keeping Amy, Imperials, and Petra.
No. We didn't agree on Imperials. So
I know. I just see if I can slip it in. I don't even want it in.
Yeah, no. Hold
We
on.
agreed on Amy
Hold
Grant,
on.
Michael W. Smith, and
Petra.
Petra.
Yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yep.
I mean, I really do think we should do a vote for Vector, but you know what? I won't be
Okay.
picking or choosy. Let's just continue on.
Okay. Okay, so
those are the 3 that you agree on. All right.
okay, that's what we agree on. Now
Next.
we may have to come back to the Imperials because keep the Imperials on another sheet.
Okay, put a little star for the Imperials, Johnny,
I
on
got
that
it.
list.
Yeah, we won't.
All right, okay, let's do it. Next.
Let's go back to the first list.
This will be an easy one to cut out.
Who we cutting?
I think we can cut out Nobody Special,
Randy Stonehill.
Randy Stonehill,
LSU.
the choir, the 77s.
Oof. And we are cutting some good stuff here, guys.
Hey,
I know we
don't
are,
know
but-
if you guys knew this, but just a quick note. Did you guys know that Russ Disdar's brother was in the choir?
No, I didn't. Wow.
Which version of the choir?
Dan Michaels.
Oh,
His
Dan
brother,
Michaels is Russ
brother.
Disdar's brother?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Did not know that.
No. wow.
Yes. His original name is Dan Disdar. Daniel
Oh,
Disdar.
wow.
If you look at a picture of him, you'll be able to figure it out real quick.
I love the choir. Like I love the choir, but again, we're talking top 10 of the 80s.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't know if it makes the cut, but I love the choir. I mean, they're still pumping out albums. They have to be like 30 albums by now.
Okay, so I'm saying Steve Taylor.
Okay, I got Steve Taylor on that list too.
I think Steve
Yeah,
Taylor.
Steve Taylor for sure.
I think Bloodgood.
Okay, one
Oh,
of
Does
good.
Doug hate Steve Taylor? We don't know yet.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sure he won't disagree with Steve
Come
Taylor.
on now.
I put an asterisk by Bloodgood.
I'm sure he'll agree with Bloodgood as well.
Ten
Well,
spots. Come on, give Steve Taylor one of them.
Steve Taylor will get it.
If I had to look between Bloodgood and Sacred Warrior, I'm more of a Sacred Warrior fan, but Bloodgood was bigger.
So Bloodgood, Steve Taylor, and then what? One more? Get 3 of each kind of thing.
No, I mean, hey,
Hey, speaking of Ohio, did
We
you
got
guys
3.
know that these bands are playing in Ohio?
yes,
No.
yeah. Josh sent us the whole entire
he
flyer.
sent the lineup.
Why don't you like rub it in more, Tom? Like seriously, we're in Canada, right? We can't even leave.
They're not allowed to cross the border, Tom.
You're
I
not
know.
allowed to leave
Well,
out of
that's
here.
why I said.
no,
speaking of
well-
Ohio.
No, that's not true. Robbie's allowed. Johnny's not allowed.
Why not?
I'm a dual citizen. I'm actually American.
No,
Canadian.
I'm joking. I don't.
Oh, I thought you meant because of that. It is true. I
We're
can
talking
actually
about-
go.
We're talking about like a
I just
thing
can't bring
that
my
goes in
family.
your arm status.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
That's what I was talking about. So,
Tattoos.
Robbie, you're allowed to come over
Tattoos.
anytime.
I don't have
I
any
have
tattoos.
blood.
I have no
I got
tattoos.
Bloodgood on the list.
Okay, you got
Yeah,
Bloodgood
Bloodgood for
on
sure.
Okay.
Randy,
I
or
do not have
Steve Taylor.
Bloodgood on the list. I have Bloodgood as an asterisk.
So do we put? So they're on the maybes then for
Okay,
right
so
now.
I got Steve Taylor and as a definite, and I have Bloodgood as a asterisk.
Okay.
So, Tom,
I don't know. I'm still aiming for that Josh guy.
I love Sacred Warrior. I love Bloodgood. Bloodgood is I feel like it has a little bit more longevity. My favorite albums by Sacred Warrior were the first one, Rebellion, and then Wicked Generation.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm not a every album guy for Sacred Warrior. I love them, and I guess I couldn't say I am for Bloodgood either because they had a few things like All Stand Together or something like that I didn't get into, but man, just for legacy, Detonation, and what they influenced with that album.
Well, I would say Bloodgood, Detonation, and Bloodgood was
Yes,
were
yes,
both amazing records.
yes, I agree. The first album as well.
okay. So it looks like Bloodgood is on the list. Steve Taylor on the list. Is that
Steve
what we
Taylor is on it. Bloodgood's a maybe.
have? Okay. All right, keep it. All right, let's go on to the next. We can always revisit these slides if we absolutely need
Gosh,
to.
yes.
Okay, so here's Doug's list. We've got Michael W. Smith and Petra already on the list.
Correct.
We just realized we're cutting Sacred Warrior.
Well, we cut it from Josh's list.
Okay, so the one band that we didn't talk about, which would probably get us blocked, is Stryper. Stryper's
Right.
on the list, no
Yes.
doubt, hands
Yes.
down, hand
Yeah.
down.
I had them there.
Yeah.
And
we didn't really even talk about them much,
I
but
would
we
have
don't really need to.
I would have to say Bride as well.
Okay, that
I
gets
had
an
them on my
asterisk,
maybe.
asterisk for me as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I probably like the 80s Bride more than I like any other Bride, honestly.
I agree.
I will tell you, I
Stryper
like
and
My
Bride.
Bride more than anything they did.
Thank you.
Say that again.
I liked My Bride.
You
more
don't
than
let him
anything
do it
they
again.
Liz is right beside him, right while he's
Okay,
saying that.
gotcha.
You hear that, honey?
She's wearing her wedding dress right now, too.
Yeah, I think that's safe.
But Vengeance Rising was on a secular label and pretty huge. White Cross is pretty huge too. I mean,
I find it funny that like Schmitty's totally getting like.
He's already on the list.
He's already on the
Oh,
list.
he's already on the list. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that. Okay, yeah, Bride, Stryper.
Okay, Bride, Stryper. So it looks like
I have to give a vote for the Crucified, and I'm surprised that Josh didn't have them on his list. And
I thought he did.
maybe he did. I don't know. But
Chris cut him off the list because he knew that me and you were going to vote for him.
no, I didn't.
Josh is over here.
I gave it exactly how Josh gave it. 77s were on Island Records in 87.
Wow. I don't
I
know.
didn't know that.
Who else can claim that on this list?
Nobody.
Stryper.
So then again, so was that 77's Island record? Was it majorly biblical content? Because we're remembering.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let's go back to the beginning
Go
of
back.
this list. Biblical content, quality of music, impact, and is it relevant for today?
So the biggest band on any of these lists would be Stryper.
We already had Stryper's already on the list.
I'm just
It's
saying
definitely on the list. It's
they're the
definitely on
number
list.
one.
It's definitely on the list.
No, hey.
It's definitely on the list.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's what
now,
the debate
now
is
we gotta
about.
get it in.
I feel like that knocks Bride off the list. Relevant for today.
Really?
That's why I have an asterisk.
I realize they're still putting out music, but
But how do you Snakes in the Playground and Kinetic Faith?
that's true. But we're talking about 80s.
Yeah, that's 90s.
So
No.
that came out in the 90s. But
Okay, maybe Snakes in the Playground came out in 90 or 91, but Kinetic Faith was 89.
Really?
88.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and they were singing some of those songs back then too. They just didn't put the album out.
Silence is
So-
Madness, Show No Mercy. You can't go wrong with the
No, I agree. I'm just thinking. So this is the way I look at it. I don't know anybody else that I could turn on to those records, to those 80s Brides album. Now, I feel like the Stryper would be easier to turn somebody on from the 80s. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's just almost like a personal preference, or you had to be there type of a thing when it comes to those Bride albums. I think they're great. I think they stand up, but you really would have to be a metalhead to hear those albums today and be like, oh, wow, these are awesome, man. Why didn't I ever hear these? But
So I would be with you.
on my
Bloodgood
list.
stuff is
They
way
were my
better.
number one.
Bloodgood
I
is
would
way
be
better
with you
than
with the
Bride.
Crucified. They would still hold up today, lyrically and biblically. But I'd also look at Deliverance too.
Mm-hmm. If I was picking between Deliverance and the Crucified, I lean more towards the Crucified. Although I love Deliverance. Amazing band.
Josh, help us out.
Here, I got an idea. Why don't we just do a top 10 CCM and a top 10 rock, an alternative?
No.
And make it easy. We'll do it fast. These guys could do it real quick.
Oh,
They'd
of
be
course
like,
we could. Of course we could, but that's not the
I already
plan.
gave my top.
I
10.
know. I'm just
All
saying
right.
it'd be easier.
Okay,
It's hard to.
you got that written down, Johnny? Where
I
everybody's
don't
at?
even know what I'm writing down right now, Chris.
Okay, we've got Stryper.
Correct.
Okay, we have an asterisk by Bride
Correct.
because it's iffy. Are we adding anybody else to this list as an asterisk
I
or
want to do
on
the
the list?
Crucified.
The Crucified.
Crucified, one vote for Tom.
Crucified.
I'll say crucified. Yeah.
I'm
you would
on a
add that?
maybe on that one.
I'm a maybe as well.
Okay.
So asterisk on the Crucified. All right, let's move on. Okay. All right, here we go. Who we cutting? Who's getting the axe?
Daniel Amos.
SFC.
Daniel Amos.
SFC.
SFC.
PID.
You're cutting
I'd
PID.
even-
Okay.
I kept PID for a different genre of music.
Sure. Of those two, though, if you're gonna of those two, I think it'd be PID.
If you're thinking 80s and you're thinking all of these bands, I don't think you're even going to think of PID. Maybe we do, but
Okay.
If I was to keep anybody, it would be DeGarmo and Key, Whiteheart, and Carmen.
why is Petra on there twice?
Because I put him on because I like them that much.
He likes some double. He wanted to make sure they made it in.
Doug, I had Whiteheart and
Sure.
DeGarmo and Key and Keith
Yeah.
Green.
I agree with that. Yeah. Those three.
I don't know about Keith. Like I said, 70s Keith.
Well,
yes.
yeah.
But
I'm gonna go with Carmen. Keith
Again.
Green. Keith Green's out. Carmen's in for me. So those two
Yeah.
and Carmen instead of Keith Green.
Well, the same three were on my list. Petra, DeGarmo and Key, Whiteheart. I have to vote for those. Those were the ones I listened to a lot.
Okay.
I mean, Chris, you know that I'm an SFC and PID fan, but
Yeah, they can't make it for. a
there's
top
no
10.
longevity.
Mhm.
Okay. So, I'm at Rich Mullins, DeGarmo and Key, and Keith Green from this list.
I think DeGarmo for sure then, because I think everybody said yes to that.
100%. Yeah, that's in for sure.
Okay. So
And I think
Carmen, you can't think of the 80s and not think of Carmen.
okay. So what do I want to pick? The three dead guys? Go Keith Green. I mean, we're really four dead guys, right? With DeGarmo.
let's get the
What about D-Boy?
D-Boy's not on this list.
Oh, so we're gonna have to do a dead top 10.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I'm picking
be
Carmen
continued.
over Rich Mullins, and I probably like Rich Mullins better.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right. It looks like Carmen's winning out on this list.
Carmen, DeGarmo and Key, and Whiteheart.
Mr. Cheese Touch himself is making the list. Okay.
For sure.
Okay. So who voted for Keith Green?
I had a Keith Green, but I mean, Doug does make a good point too.
I don't think Keith should make it for the 80s. I don't think for the 80s.
So he died in the 80s. I pitched the most influential part of his ministry was his
when he
last.
died?
Why do you want all dead people?
He was instrumental. Was it biblical? Was Keith Green more biblical than all these guys on this chart?
Okay, we're not going to be sainthood here.
And was the music
If you want to talk about saving souls, I'm going to fight you for Carmen.
Chris, would Keith Green make a top 70s? Did he make the top 70s on our show?
Yes.
Yes, correct. So he's already got one in there, a decade. You don't need to give him another one.
When we do the 90s, all of his re-releases were when.
You do realize that our 90s is going to be like a show on the 90 and then 91 and then 92 and then 93.
Well, we should have done that with the 80s.
And I didn't. I didn't
not enough
choose
music,
Larry
I don't
Norman.
think.
Yeah, I didn't choose Larry Norman because I'm not a huge fan of the 80s Larry Norman.
Larry, gotcha. Yeah.
He did better in the 90s, I think, than he did.
He did. Yeah.
In the 80s, because he also.
So by my standards, we have 11 people on our list.
Okay, we're not even done yet.
Okay.
No, we have 6 locked in, and we have 5 in the maybe category.
Okay.
Cool. Let's move on then.
All right,
So
here we
we're
go.
good for this one.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Whiteheart and DeGarmo and Key are in the
Yeah,
Crucified, and Bride are already
Petra's
there.
already there. Petra's already there.
No,
Bloodgood.
Bride isn't asterisk.
Bride's
But
an
Petra's
asterisk,
there.
so is Bloodgood an asterisk, so is
I will
Whiteheart an
fight
asterisk.
to the death with Bride. But hey, who am I?
Hey, no, you
I'm
have
just
a
the
voice.
angry guy that's on this podcast or this show. So
This is sound off. Okay.
Sound off.
I mean, I love Mad at the World. I love Vengeance Rising. I love Tourniquet. I love Bloodgood. Was never really a huge fan of Jerusalem.
See,
Go ahead.
man, if we cut Daniel Amos and we keep any of these groups, I'm just saying. All right, I'm just saying.
Well, we already have
Daniel Amos was in our 70s show.
Yes, but
I
they're
think this
all
here
gonna-
is pretty much our top 10 right here.
So we got
I've
6
got-
locked in and 6 in the maybe category. So we only really need to cut 2.
How many on this list are already on the list?
Lots.
Yeah.
Petra, wow, DeGarmo and Key.
Petra's locked
Bloodgood.
in. DeGarmo and Key is locked in. Bloodgood's on the maybe. Bride's on the maybe. Crucified's on the maybe.
Okay.
We need to
And
lock down
Whiteheart's on the maybe.
Crucified and Bride.
I think we could take out
right now.
Vengeance Rising. We could
Yes.
take out. I think we could take out Mad at the World. Great and everything. But yeah, I don't think they're going to hit the top 10.
Tourniquet.
Tourniquet, I think, goes as well too. Also good, but
I'd have to say Jerusalem would have
Jerusalem
to go.
would have to go for sure. I mean, it's more of a niche kind of.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I think
like
we have the
Jerusalem.
6 locked in. I think we just need to figure out of the 6 that
order.
are on the maybes as to who we move into the top 10, and then we figure out top 10.
All
Okay.
right, let's do it.
We'll let Josh have a vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Josh
should
votes
have.
Crucified.
Crucified.
Okay, so he
We'll let
has
that
a
in.
vote for Crucified, but we haven't picked Crucified. So
No, we haven't. But it seems fair if we're going based on his list. He has to have a say in this thing.
absolutely
And I know he mentioned 77s.
So we're
before.
moving the Crucified to locked in.
no, not yet.
No, but
Okay.
put it on the list because
No, it's on the list.
Tell us who's
Then I-
locked in.
Locked in. Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, Petra, Steve Taylor, Stryper, DeGarmo and Key.
Okay, real quick, Josh, in one quick paragraph or a couple paragraphs in the chat, sell us the Crucified. I mean, if it's going to be honest, he has to at least pitch a little bit and say why he thinks it should be in the
And
top
while
10.
he's doing that, since we lock those in, are we safe to say that's our top 5?
Well, there's
Yeah,
6 of them.
6 of them. That's our top 6.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
Sure.
Do we want to now number them 1 through 6?
Well, it's going to be hard if I guess we could, based on, does everyone agree that those are definitely in the top 6?
I wouldn't
Yeah, I
say
think we
Steve Taylor was in the top 6.
For sure. I think we can. Yeah, let's go 1 to 6 on those.
No, we can't add Steve Taylor into that.
Um,
Let's go top 5 and cut Steve Taylor and add him in the next 5.
Okay.
Deal?
That's
okay.
deal.
Okay. Who are they again, Johnny?
Amy, Smitty, Petra, Stryper, DeGarmo.
I'd have to say that right there is by relevancy, by album sales, by number 1 songs. Maybe Michael W. Smith would be over Amy. I'm not sure what his. I don't know his top.
I don't think so.
Okay, so so
It's a pretty good list, though. In order, it's pretty much there almost, like if not there.
So we locking in DeGarmo and Key at number 5.
Think so.
I'd be okay.
Yeah.
With that.
Yep.
I'm in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Okay, number 4 we had Stryper. Are we moving him up on the list?
No, I think that's fair because you can't put Stryper over like an Amy Grant or
Okay,
a
well
W.
we got it. We all got to agree on this.
I know. I'm just pitching. It's just a debate.
Is
right?
Stryper ahead of Petra?
Yes.
Stryper wasn't on my list, but I would, if they were, they would definitely be ahead of Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith.
Yeah, but
Like
if they had
this
a
guy-
Petra, the question now is
That's my
Petra or
personal-
Stryper? Petra or Stryper?
Stryper.
We know what you're gonna choose. You put him number 1 if it was your show, Doug.
Well, I understand that, but you're talking about a band that's selling out every
I
show that
agree.
they're playing
Oh, I
right
agree.
now,
They're
and they're
phenomenal.
still on the Billboard charts.
They're
You can't-
phenomenal. Yep. No, they're phenomenal.
Who's coming in at number 4?
But we got to pick. We got to pick
Petra.
by vote.
I don't know if I could do that.
I don't know. Stryper is good and all, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to go
I'm thinking Michael W. Smith
for 4th.
for 4th.
Really?
I mean, if we were looking at Michael
Stryper.
W. Smith in the 80s compared to the 2000s or the late 90s,
He's pretty
by
big,
far,
dude.
he's way bigger. When when he came out with that Worship record in 2000, right at 9/11, it was the biggest thing he ever done in his career. So
Album sales, but I mean, as far as household name brand, I mean, he was massive in the 80s. Massive.
Yeah, I mean,
And
there was
5
Amy
albums.
Grant and Michael W. Smith. They
What's that,
were
Johnny? 5 albums? What?
5 albums in the 80s, Michael W. Smith.
but over Petra. Over Petra. I mean,
Yes.
we're talking.
I'm pushing for Petra to move closer to the number 1 spot above Michael.
Okay, so that's 2 of us. So okay, I mean, this is all majority
Oh, it's
rules.
all good. Yeah.
I mean, we pleaded our case.
Petra was massive.
Petra was
Biblical
bigger in the 90s, though.
Petra?
Yeah.
No.
John Schlitt, when he came into Petra, was the end of 80s, early 90s. You had Petra Praise, you had whatever the one with
I forgot about Petra Praise.
Man, that was
So
huge.
You had This Means War,
On Fire.
On Fire, Petra Praise, Unseen Power. Was that still in the 80s?
That was like 90. That's 90.
Easily the best Petra. Like, incredible run that was.
I mean,
5 albums.
Greg X Wolves, there's no denying him, but
We're talking about another dead guy.
not
There we
dead.
go. We gotta move this closer, you know. I don't know. I'm for Petra not being number 4.
I'd say the same thing. I think they definitely deserve higher than number 4 for sure.
Sure. Then you know what?
But then you're going to
argument's
upset Doug because Stryper's going to come down on that list.
sake- or are they gonna? Is Stryper gonna be a 2-3?
I
don't know,
I
man.
can't move Stryper or I can't move Amy Grant.
well, I'd say as far as relevancy, if we're going off the list, dude, relevancy and biblically,
I mean, the relevancy of those would you rather listen to an old Petra record or a Michael W. Smith record?
Petra.
Dude, I could tear
That'd
apart
be-
some Amy Grant songs.
Hey,
using the
we're not
Bible.
talking about Amy.
I'm
We're
telling
talking,
you that right
we're
now.
talking Tom. You love those old Michael W. Smith records. Would you put on a Petra record now or a Michael W. Smith record? If you had a choice.
What's his mood though? That's a weird question, right? Because it's like sometimes you're just in the
What's your mood 90% of the time?
Josh Laurie says Petra.
Patrick.
You know, I pulled back out some Petra albums recently,
incredible.
and they weren't as good as what I remembered.
Okay.
What
Telling
year?
you they're
80s
four.
or
80s, yeah.
80s, really?
Telling you, Petra's 4.
All right, we're locking in Petra.
All right, let's lock it in.
Okay, so who's 3?
Michael.
Michael W. Smith. Michael W. Smith.
I'd say Amy.
I'm going Michael W. Smith.
Dude.
Okay, we got
Let's
one
just
for Amy.
complete
I'm
that.
gonna go Michael. I'm gonna go Michael on it.
I like Michael more than Amy.
Tom.
I just want to keep Amy out of the number 1 spot. Can we just do that at least?
I think she's gonna take number 1 spot.
Oh, baby.
I think
I mean,
There would be no Amy without Michael. So come on, Amy.
I know.
Where are you at, Tom?
What are we talking about now? What's our options? Last 3.
Stryper, Amy, Michael.
Just I say Amy Grant right now for number 3.
Okay, Doug
I'm-
said
That's
Amy.
my
I'm
vote.
with Amy. I'm with Tom.
It may not go along with the rules,
Johnny?
but that's what
Maybe
I'm
we need to just spit out the facts
Yeah.
on Amy Grant though. Like,
Dude,
real
yeah,
quick. It's unbelievable.
I'm telling you, she's got a song that will keep her out of there. I can't remember what it is. Song I like, but when I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this does not hold up biblically. It's horrible doctrine and theology.
Again, we're talking 80s. Like, the Canada's like, oh, they stayed like the whole time. Like, I know it's in the rules, but we got to.
So
who are the pioneers of the 80s? Like, this
So
is gonna
Karen C on the chat said, would anybody recognize a Stryper song versus Amy Grant song? And I'd have to say, with Stryper being on the number 1 charts for MTV for 37 weeks, I think that's pretty huge for number 1.
I don't think if you went to the average Christian and said, hey, name me 3 Stryper songs, they would have a clue.
Doesn't matter. Stryper was huge in the mainstream and
But
Christian.
anybody could mention Amy Grant. We got to go with a whole, broad audience here. We can't just go specifically.
Dude, you couldn't go to an 80s dance at school without hearing Honestly.
Yeah, well, that's true. And to tell you the truth, what we should be really listening to for the most part is Tom and Doug, because they live this. I listened to this later in the 90s after I'm going back and listening and appreciating it. I have no concept of what it was like at that time. So to be fair, we need to recognize there's certain people that lived through it and understood exactly what it was like while it was happening, which Chris, Johnny, and myself, we can't really relate to that.
Okay, so what are you picking, Johnny? Who's your number 3?
For my number, Smitty.
Smitty? Robbie?
I'm gonna go Smitty.
Okay, so if I go Michael W. Smith too, everything that you just said, Robbie, went straight out the window and we threw it in the garbage, because we just went with Michael W. Smith, number 3. All right, okay, here we go. We are battling it out.
Tom is going to be so angry.
Top 2 spots.
But there's no way that I'll be giving Stryper.
We had a vote for Josh
Number
for
1.
Amy at 3.
What's that?
So, Josh voted Amy at 3.
Oh,
Amy
Josh
at
gets a
3.
say, so we get to collect.
Wait a minute, but that's me, Tom, and Josh.
So what do we get Elijah in here?
Who's gonna be who's gonna be the
Call
driver?
Elijah. Call him up. Call him up.
Call him up.
Get him on the phone.
Hey, man, how's Western Carolina?
Call him up.
Western Carolina.
I think we locked it in though. So even at that, we have a, Josh gets a half of a vote.
Okay,
This is
listen
not
to these
personal.
lyrics, guys. Hold on.
Oh,
This is Father's Eyes by Amy Grant. All right. Says, and on that day when we will pay for all the deeds we have done, good and bad, they'll all be had to see seen by everyone. And when you're called to stand and tell just what you saw in me, more than anything I know, I want your words to be, she had her father's eyes. Nobody is going to stand on the throne of judgment and judge us, okay, according to what we've done. It's going to be according to what Jesus did and are being covered by the blood. So if we're talking about scriptural relevance, come on. Anybody, come on, chat
Now,
room,
wait,
please
now,
listen to me.
in all fairness to that, Tom, what year was that written? Pull that up.
It doesn't give a year. New Spring Publishing Incorporated. Well, Gary Chapman wrote it. Never mind.
Yeah, but Gary Chapman wrote it.
Sung it.
Yeah, okay.
That was her husband.
He was a drug addict. So we got him as a drug addict. We got Michael W. Smith as a drug addict at this time. We put him at number 3. Okay, what are we doing? Are we gonna recant and go back to Amy Grant at number 3?
I think Amy Grant needs to go to number 6.
I'm in agreement with that.
Tell us how you really feel, Tom.
I saw her in concert. I know all the words, but come on.
Father's Eyes came out in 79.
Exactly. That was my point. Yeah, so you're talking about something that wasn't even technically 80s.
Okay, busted.
Oh my gosh.
Still the collection. It was on the collection album, which was out in the 80s. So,
and so evidence and proof to the best way for you to know this information is to get it right at bornagainsound.com.
Bornagainsound.com.
You have more commercial breaks than most podcasts these days. My goodness.
All right. Who are we going with?
Amy Grant at 6.
We're starting from scratch again.
Much to
I still have nothing to show.
Coming to the end next
to
in 2 weeks. We will let you know what we've decided. You know what? Let's take 2 weeks. Let's take 2 weeks
Amy
and
Grant
decide
is
this.
going to be number 1. Then you got to put Michael W. Smith at number 2.
Guys, I think that we need 2 weeks to really mill this over. These are serious decisions that were ahead of us.
Okay, so
everyone can come back in 2 weeks and find out exactly what the top 10 is.
Sell us on Michael W. Smith. We're going to wrap this up. Come on. Sell us, Doug.
Michael W. Smith?
On why over Amy Grant at number
Because
8.
he wrote a lot of her songs. So did Rich Mullins, and so did Gary Chapman.
He could play an instrument too.
And he can play multiple instruments.
Right.
And Amy duetted with him because she knew that he was going to be bigger than her. And she knew that she couldn't carry it. Do I know that for a fact?
Yeah, it sounds like speculation.
It could be. I was young in the 80s.
Okay. All I gotta say is I understand. Nobody really likes Amy Grant. All right, baby. She's just a train wreck. She's a train wreck. So let's just scrap her. Let's put her last.
No. Okay. I'm okay with putting her at number 3. I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
So it's Michael or
She let me
Stryper?
down. She let me down. I'm fine with that as well too. The whole baby thing just really threw me for a loop.
Okay, so now here we go.
Well, how about
Michael W. Smith or Stryper?
Oh man.
To be fair, I would
Be
say
fair, Doug, we already know what you
I would
choose.
be fair. Number 2 would be Stryper. Number 1, Michael W. Smith.
I think that is the most logical explanation for sure on that.
I'll be able to sleep at night with that.
I will too. I think it's
Good compromise, Doug. I mean,
it has to be. It just has
Hey,
to.
Alton, what? Wait, what?
let's be honest. I mean, you know,
Hey, all I know is that Michael Sweet and Nas Fox were on eye to eye, so that made a big impression on my parents and my family because they never liked Stryper, and so that was a big move for them to be on that record. So
I like it.
Okay.
I'm
So
happy.
we've
Now we
got-
got to do 6 to 10.
Okay. So you let us know who we've got.
Okay, well, we got to figure out from these 6 as to who we're putting into 4 spots.
Okay, we got to cut 2, guys.
Imperials,
cut.
Bloodgood, Bride, Crucified, Carmen, Whiteheart.
that's a tough one.
Keep in mind, we got to not just think of the genres that we like. We got to be kind of fair about this because Just because we don't like Imperials because it's not our music doesn't mean they weren't a huge impact in the 80s.
If we were talking about number of souls saved, Carmen would probably be number one.
Yeah, I think Carmen's got to be in there for sure.
I would say the Holy Spirit on that.
Yeah, well, the Holy Spirit using Carmen.
So, Chris, it's okay to say it when it's Keith Green, but when it's Carmen, it's not.
Yeah,
you can always count on Chris to make sure you're theologically correct, doctrinally correct, and the whole thing. There you go.
Okay, so we've got our top 5. Now we're rounding out the bottom 5.
I would have to say I would say Imperials because they were a 70s group too. That they made our list on the 70s list.
25 singles in the 80s.
I don't know one.
25 singles.
I'm with Tom. I don't know one song.
Come on, I played that one. Come on.
And I don't know that song.
Weren't they the backup band for Elvis?
That was Mylan and Broken Heart. I think somebody back then played with Elvis. That's all I know.
Okay, what's the?
I mean, if you're going to take non-rock bands, who would you choose then? Like, if you're going to take just CCM, think of CCM in your head. Don't think nothing rock with electric guitar counts at all. If they have electric guitar or even like maybe heaven forbid drums, it's not included. What would you include for the 80s? I mean, it's the best way to really simplify it and say to yourself, wait a minute, because I mean, most of those bands are all like rock, and I'm not saying it's not right, but we got to be fair in the fact. What's that?
We already got Amy Grant on there, so
yeah, but but we're talking now we're talking the bottom top 10 here, 6 to 10. There's got to be at least a couple.
Okay,
like,
I would listen to we got Carmen. We said
Carmen, but everyone kind of respects Carmen, right?
We
like
need to cut two.
Hey, by the way, we didn't even talk about Stephen Curtis Chapman.
That's right. We got to cut 2 though, Johnny.
But Stephen Curtis Chapman was not big in the 80s.
Yeah, let's cut
in the 90s.
Let's cut him. Let's cut.
He was already cut. He wasn't even on the list.
He was already cut.
He was cut like forever ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to cut 2.
Okay.
Imperials, Bloodgood, Bride, The Crucified, Whiteheart.
Bride's gone for sure.
No way. You can't have.
I don't think we can cut Bride.
You can't cut Bride.
What about that list?
Crucified.
We got to do 2 guys. Guys, we got to do 2.
So Imperials.
Tom's wearing the Crucified shirt. You want to cut the Crucified?
Hey,
I would cut Imperials and the Crucified.
He's got it on his car and his shirt.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like we got to get 2 out of here, guys. So like, I agree. Why don't we just put the ones we want for sure? Crucified. You want Bride. I mean, we're only be left with 2, and then you got to say these guys got to go. So is it Bloodgood, Bride?
Well, let's start this way. Who are you cutting, Robbie? Cut him. Cut him right now.
Well, I can't have them all rock bands. It's not right and not fair. Even if I can't stand, I'm gonna even if I get outvoted, I'm gonna keep the Imperials in there. 25 singles. Okay, I mean, they're huge in the 80s.
Huge. Okay, you're keeping them. Who are you cutting? You got to cut 2.
I don't know one of them.
I'm with Tom.
And I'm fine if I get outvoted.
They were huge because of Southern Gospel. That's all of that.
No, they were not.
Oh, please.
Go listen to the record.
I love how heated it gets. It's
what
so
about
fun.
Farrell?
Well, wait, Johnny, say it real quick. I'll cut one real quick. What is it?
Okay. Imperials, Bloodgood, Bride, The Crucified, Whiteheart.
Okay, Whiteheart is mine. That's gone out of that list. And I'm going to say I'm still sticking with Bride. So those are the 2 I would cut from that list.
Okay. Doug?
I'm cutting Imperials and Bloodgood.
Wow. That surprised me.
Johnny?
I'm cutting Whiteheart. And I haven't decided on the other one.
Oh, just one sec. They pitched like Bloodgood was like the best, phenomenal, incredible, selling thousands of albums, and you're cutting it?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just confused. I don't know Bloodgood, but because I was like,
because I think Bride was more impactful as a ministry.
Okay, fair enough.
Because I mean, I've done several Bride shows.
Okay.
I know the band very well. Bloodgood always seemed pretentious to me.
Okay, then I'll cut Bloodgood.
Well, I didn't know this, and I want to cut Bloodgood then too. I didn't know this. I thought that they were like the best, and I don't know much about them. So I'm going to change mine, Johnny. I'm going to say we're taking Bloodgood out. We'll leave Bride in. I know Bride, but you guys were like selling me on like these guys are so much better than Bride.
Okay.
Okay. Continue.
Hey, remember this too. Crucified bigger in the 90s.
Well,
What the
stop
heck?
bringing up these things.
What is this?
This is the Imperials, man.
Dude, it's hurting my ears. My parents used to slow dance to this
Chris,
stuff.
who are you cutting?
You were conceived to the song.
I hope not.
Chris, who are you cutting?
I am cutting Bloodgood. So they're gone. And Whiteheart.
Okay, they're gone then.
How do you cut Whiteheart and keep the Imperials?
Easily. We went. Here's what you do, Doug. Put the Imperials as number 10.
Yeah.
Number 11.
Number
Nope.
6, Imperials.
Wait.
Put them as 10. That's fine.
Do I get to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go.
Okay.
Tom.
1, Imperials.
Okay.
2, Imperials again.
Oh man, do they hate Imperials?
Okay.
Josh, do you cut
Just
Imperials
to be
or
clear,
Pride?
just to be clear though, like Doug and Tom, Johnny and I do not listen to the Imperials at all. So just don't think that we're like Imperial lovers. We're not.
I get
Imperials
I get that they had a ton of hits, but you got to think of Christian radio back then. There wasn't much to be hits on.
But
There
they're still on the radio. There a lot more
Wait a
people
minute.
were hearing that
Wait a
music
minute.
than
Steve
that?
Taylor. Where's Steve Taylor at? We forgot about him.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we
if
then
I
we've
could
done the
swap
top
out
5.
Imperials for
Okay,
Daniel
he's already
Amos,
there.
I
Okay,
would
okay.
right
Oh,
now.
Steve's there. Yeah, Steve's there for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
So here are your remaining 5. In at number 10 is the Imperials. Here's the remaining 4. Carmen, Steve Taylor, Bride, The Crucified.
You know, if I have to think about it like this, dang, I have to put Whiteheart back on the list,
And take out Imperials.
and I might have to take out the Imperials.
Do it, knock it out. Then it would be you overrule us. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I just think it add more diversity. If you want to do that, then it takes them out completely, and you guys can play your little rock game if you want.
Whiteheart was very soft rock. So
It's like
yeah.
let's do a rock top 10, guys.
hey, okay, Robbie,
That was what the rules.
so in the 80s, who was the main lead singer of Whiteheart? Let me see if you can guess this. Guess, Robbie. Who
Oh,
was
sorry,
the-
what?
Who was the lead singer in the 80s for Whiteheart?
I don't even know.
It's Steve Green. Steve Green. I mean, how much more diverse can we get? We're talking about Steve Green's rock band.
Yeah, but it's also like a rock band. I'm saying the
was
genre we're
very
all.
light.
But again, yeah, I understand that. But I'm
was
saying
like-
keep in mind that there were more people at that time, even though these albums were huge. More people were hearing radio play, which means more people heard CCM than they did rock. Even if though rock was selling like crazy, overall,
Whiteheart was played on regular
Steve
mainstream.
Green.
hardly maybe a slow
2
song.
years.
What?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years on Whiteheart. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying I like the music. I'm just being fair in this kind of top 10 list, not so personalized. Guys, if it was personalized, Vector would be on the list for me. All right. That just shows you how crazy that this list would be.
Yeah, but you already have Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, Petra, Stryper, DeGarmo and Key as the top 5. That was the 80s Christian music.
And that's
Yeah,
why
and
those
now,
are the
and
top
now we're
5.
6 to 10.
I knew this was going to get heated.
That's
All right.
fine.
And I'd also say in album sales, they probably beat out the Imperials. They probably beat out Whiteheart. I mean, all those artists together were pretty much. I mean, Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, and Stryper alone were mainstream, even in the late 80s.
So I wonder if we take those two bands, and let's ask the audience. And let's wait and see what they come back as an overall. What do you think should make a list for a top 10 of all the 80s? I think it is, because either they're going to be like.
Then you'd have to take Steve Taylor out. You would have to take Steve Taylor out.
I'm just saying, you give them two choices. You give them a really rock choice, and you give them a CCM choice. And regardless, let them decide.
Steve Taylor? Who's cutting Steve Taylor?
I would cut Steve Taylor.
Who else is cutting Steve Taylor?
He was influential in the 90s, not in the 80s.
That's when he put out most of his solo stuff.
But it's Steve, dude. It's Steve.
I don't care.
Steve and Whiteheart, I would pick.
I don't care.
Who would you pick? Who would you pick, Tom?
I would cut Steve.
You would cut Steve over Whiteheart?
Yeah.
Johnny?
And Steve, well, I look at not only his frame of work as an artist, but also everything that he's done on top of that.
And Josh is saying Steve Taylor has to stay. He was huge in the 80s. That's Josh's vote.
He had one big album in the 80s.
Hey, take it up with Josh, okay? Don't yell at me.
Josh,
I'm just the messenger.
Come out and put it on right now.
Listen.
He's like talking to him through the mic. Josh.
Here's where we're at. Okay.
This is too funny. This is great.
We need to figure out who is 6, 7, and 8 between Carmen, Bride, and the Crucified.
Oh, but dude, we thought 10 was a lock with the Imperials. No. Chris is changing his vote.
I got it. We just got to figure out 6, 7, and 8.
Okay. Carmen 6. What was the other? Bride?
Bride or Crucified?
Bride 7, Crucified 8.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that.
Tom?
You know, I'm okay with it, but
come on, Tom.
But let me just say this: Bride were a lot bigger in the 90s, and so were the Crucified. But I listened to them a lot in the 80s, and the 80s Bride albums are my favorite.
Guys, Tom is not wearing a Bride shirt. I don't know if you noticed. Okay, he's not wearing a Bride shirt.
Do you have a Bride shirt, Tom?
Oh yeah, I got a Bride shirt.
Here's your top 10. Michael W. Smith, number 1. Stryper, number 2. Amy Grant is 3. Petra, 4. DeGarmo and Key, 5. Carmen rolls in at number 6. Bride at 7. Crucified at 8. Steve Taylor's at 9 because he was big, impactful in many different ways. And number 10, tied for 10th, is the Imperials and Whiteheart.
Okay, so now this is up to the audience. You guys give your votes. Let's continue playing some Imperials while I pull up Whiteheart.
Can I ask a question?
Tom and Doug are like, no.
Out of these 11 bands,
you guys pick. You guys pick a Whiteheart song so that everybody will hear.
Powerhouse.
It's 90s.
Here's an example of what I'm saying, right? You got Josh saying Whiteheart, you got Karen saying Imperials. It all comes down to taste, man, because it's like we could even have a draw in the chat.
So I want to ask a question. Out of the top 11 bands that we have right now, how many of them have any of you seen?
Why do I care so much what people think about me?
Neither. We live in Canada.
I know Steve Taylor's been there. I know Smitty's been there. I know Stryper's been there.
I thought you meant between Whiteheart and the Imperials.
Well, they haven't toured since 1997, either band, probably.
Yeah.
So listen to these song titles by Whiteheart. Bye Bye Babylon, Let the Kingdom Come, Sing Your Freedom, The River Will Flow, I'll Meet You There. These are powerful Christian lyrics, Christian songs that were reaching the lost. The Imperials, what do? They sang to people already Christians.
What do you think Michael W. Smith's done? What do you think Michael W. Smith's done his whole career?
Oh, I can tell you that Smitty was very influential in the mainstream.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
That's why he's That's why he's number one.
But I'd say Imperials rank there with the Gaithers for me because they were preaching to the preached.
Okay.
Hey,
Josh
Christians need to be
China-
entertained as well. All right.
Imperials demographic was senior citizens.
Yeah.
He's right.
They did
He's
well.
right.
I love it. He's so true.
So this is the top 10 list, and we boycott the elderly as far as that. We discriminate towards the elderly. You know,
Somebody's gotta
We're
get this.
ageist.
we're ageist. We're ageist. Okay, I'm fine with that. As long as we have disclaimer, we're ageist. This list
All you
is not for
guys
anyone
have,
over 50.
Yeah, well, all you guys have gray hair, except for me and Robbie.
I got
Chris, you
grays.
have no hair, and
Yeah.
you've been like that for the last 20 years.
All right. So who we going with?
You only have 2 votes.
The front,
We only
the
got 2
front
votes.
half is a good
Come
top
on.
5, and the back half is all your rock and roll.
We need
Oh.
you guys in the audience, the ones that are still hanging with us. White Hart, Imperials, and we're closing out the show. We got 1 vote. We need 3 votes. We got 1 from Josh. He gave us White Hart. Put them all up there.
Karen
So
had
if you guys are
Imperial.
watching, we need 2 more votes. And you guys are the deciding factor. And we are closing this show out.
My wife was like, "Is it going to be like 2 hours tonight?" Oh, it's not going to go longer than 2 hours, babe.
Hey, before you vote, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Rick Florian of White Hart, he used to do a flip on the stage in concert.
Oh, cool.
That's it.
Like,
Lock him in at 10.
yeah. I guarantee none of the Imperials were flipping on the stage. Guarantee that.
No, I can guarantee that too. Yeah.
Hey guys, we want to go to bed. Okay, we all right there. We
I think
got-
Whiteheart took it.
No, not yet. We've got 1 more vote.
Oh, 1 more vote to come in. So Josh, what is Josh counting this one?
Oh, and look at this. Now we're 2 for 1. 2 for 1, guys. Karen came in with the Imperials.
Imperials.
Okay. All right, so we've got if 1 more person comes
One
in.
more. The deciding vote. The next person,
Yes.
either Imperials or Whiteheart. Boy, there's gonna be some
This
angry
is the
people.
tiebreaker.
I think we just keep it as a tie.
Come
No,
on.
we can need 1 more vote.
We need 1 more
Karen
vote.
is Imperials. Mallard's at Whiteheart.
Josh Whiteheart.
We just need 1. Yeah, but he doesn't count in this. We're taking this to the chat.
Elijah just came in.
Doug.
No.
That's
Look at what
awesome.
Doug wrote.
That's
his,
awesome.
His doesn't count. He wrote Whiteheart. Like this isn't Bob.
There it is. There it is, guys. Imperials, Crystal, Zimmon.
Okay,
There's the
so
deciding vote.
Oh no. The atomic. Here we go. The atomic arena. 3
Oh,
to 2.
Came in before Imperials.
Yeah.
But we're still at a tie. We're still at a tie now because Crystal came in afterwards with Imperials.
No, that's 3 to 2, Robbie.
Oh.
3 to 2. And
I'm just kidding. I don't care if the Imperials win or not. It's hilarious.
All right.
Actually, our whole strategy, just to let you know, just full disclaimer, we conspired before the show, Johnny and I, to see if we could get that Imperials into the top 10. And guess what, guys? We almost did.
Okay, so here we go, Johnny, for the in the
hold
show.
on. White Hart is actually, or the Atomic Arena is actually my channel. Doug and I had the same idea, so.
Wow.
Wait a minute. Hold
So
on.
the Imperials won. Crystal, then Imperials is it. Oh, look, Doug's in there with Stryper. He's still saying
Okay,
Stryper.
so-
Stryper's
so-
already like.
Johnny, close us out. Tell us that
All right.
top 10 list you guys have been watching Take on the World TV.
Number 10, Whiteheart Imperials. Number 9, Steve Taylor. Number 8, The Crucified. Bride at 7. Carmen at 6. DeGarmo and Key at 5. Petra at 4. Amy Grant 3. Stryper 2. And numero 10, Michael W. Smitty.
All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Tom, for jumping on tonight, filling in for Josh and Elijah. We will be back in a couple weeks, and we will see you guys soon.
Take care, all.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
God bless you.
Yeah, blessings to y'all.
Love you.
Good night.
the breath in my lungs. Just can't hold me. No man. Start a revolution with no man control. Start a revolution with the breath in my lungs. Sound off.